Effing cry.
The family guy of anime and manga. Hello and welcome to the Nen Show Podcast. This is your host, Craftsdwarf, here with my co-host, Mathwiz. Say hello, Mathwiz.
Oh, I don't like that comparison at all. I don't like that at all.
No, it's not a good comparison, but it's just like, I find it funny, and I guess people on the server also find it funny because it's not accurate, but it's, like, see, I'll go into that a bit, but, because people on my server like Gintama, but because of the references, so therefore, that's the only similarity. Therefore, no, I think, anyway, so, getting that out of the way, we are starting the second patron pick for, now that we're done with the old school block, they voted for Gintama. So, prior histories, Mathwiz has none.
Yeah,
right?
No, I am not familiar with any Gintama at all. The only thing I know about it is that people hold it in very high regard. Like, if you like it, it's like one of your favorites. It's like one of the GOATs. If you don't like it...
Yeah, so I brought up my server earlier. They're kind of important to not just, like, why we're reading Gintama. So basically, I knew a lot of them people in my server liked it, like really liked it, like some of them as much if not more than One Piece. And keep in mind, like, this is my Discord server. A lot of my, fans who followed me and found me and have been following me for a while, found me because of my One Piece stuff. And a lot of them still really like One Piece, but there's a sizable number of them that's also like Gintama. To the point that when the reason it's on the poll in the first place is because one of the people on my server patroned it and because he wanted us to read. He's been wanting us to read on the Nen Show since he found out about the Nen Show. And then there were literally at least two people monitoring the votes of the poll as it was going, so that if it ever fell behind, because Magi was closing in on it at one point. But they were prepared to find a way to lobby it and get it more votes. Basically, I don't think it was necessary, but it was something that that was happening.
Damn, I should have found a counterfaction to just boost our Patreon numbers so that there could have been a war.
Yeah, there's a fucking political bidding war going on in the patron polls because Gintama's on it, and it's which I guess the absurdity of it is it's funnily almost fitting in a sense. This isn't my first experience with Gintama because I did in fact watch it last year, and I get mostly I just don't find it super funny. That's not to say I found nothing in it funny, but if there's 37 episodes and I'm gonna find one episode funny and a couple moments funny throughout, then I got kind of tired with it at that point, and I was just frustrated, and I dropped it. And I don't know if I'm gonna go back to the anime, but now we're reading on the Nen Show, so. And, I can still, I can say that I found the anime funnier, but, I do think, we'll talk about the manga, obviously, because, overall, the humor just isn't my thing, and it's not working for me, and maybe it's part of why, it's kind of a meme on my Discord server that, I'm exaggerating my feelings on Gintama, because I don't dislike it. I think I gave the anime, a 5 when I put it down, and, which is, I don't think is, a really bad, it's more, not my thing kind of thing. But, where 4 is, boring, where 5 is, I see stuff there, I just don't care for it, and that's probably where I am at right now, but I do hope by, even just discussing it, I think will, help me maybe appreciate some things more, even if I don't like it more, and obviously we have, a minimum 12 episodes left of discussion, so, that's plenty of time for me to find something I like and click with and enjoy, and I hope that happens. But I do, on my server mostly, where, in private space with people who know me, I do sometimes, exaggerate my, I'd say Gintama's, what was it? There was one comment, it's oh, Sorachi, the author, he thinks Gintama is shit, and I just reply, based, or something like that. Just because I think it's funny, but, so if you hear any, because if there's people in my server from the comments and they're memeing, I'll know, but not people outside of that bubble might not know. So, there's when I dropped the show, I gave a little explanation of some of my issues with it, and that's kind of become a copy pasta on my server. That I've posted in a humorous way, even though it's I made it unironically originally. So and if it shows up in the comments, then I'm not gonna be surprised. Okay, I'm just forewarning. for anyone, who's just like, there's context that maybe not everyone understands, or maybe the comments will be super, because like, again, no spoilers please, because I have not gone very much, I haven't gone anywhere past the second reading. Like, I haven't even gotten to the end of what the second reading, and obviously Mathwiz knows something about it, so just no spoilers beyond this material, chapters 1 through 52. Though, like, one thing I'm fine with is anime differences, because, like, obviously I haven't watched all of the anime, and I remember some, but, if you have something interesting you want to say, because, like, the anime for Gintama is beloved, especially. Like, it's up there on my anime list with, like, fucking Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Legend of Galactic Heroes. Like, it's absurd how much it's liked almost. Like, it fucking fills, like, half of the top 10 if people love Gintama, man.
I mean, like, I definitely got the sense from some of the jokes that, like, like, a lot of the... So, like, I've described One Piece's humor as coming off as very loud, even though, it's in a manga, it has no sound, but just, like, the way the characters have, like, the over-the-top reactions. Gintama seems like it would kind of be the opposite of that, where it's the more, like, deadpan, like, someone does a weird thing, and it's like, no, actually, another weird thing,
Yeah, see, and that's funny, because, like, watching it is different, but reading it almost didn't feel like a comedy manga. And not because it isn't, obviously, or, like, and part of that is also because I don't find it particularly funny, but it's, like, it's also just so, like, the chapters, most of the chapters, even if there's, like, goofy stuff going on or they end on a punchline, a lot of them felt like they were more in service of the conflict and the themes that the story is trying to explore than the jokes themselves. So, like, compared to this Kinnikuman, which very much started out as a gag comedy, but it wasn't, like, and it became an action series, where this is, like, there's action and there's comedy, but it feels like it's more, like, even if a lot of it is, goofy and absurd, and there's just straight up comedy chapters, but I feel like compared to Kinnikuman, it's leaning a bit harder into the battle series from the start, which, I just felt was worth noting because, like, again, we just came off of Kinnikuman, and, we jump ahead, 20 years, roughly, give or take, and it's just a difference in presentation. But
I also remember hearing that, like, the anime starts off with, like, I think the first 2 episodes are, like, anime original, and people say they're terrible.
I mean, watching them with no like, as my friend, because I knew that, I just wanted to watch them and form my own opinion as someone first watching Gintama. They weren't, I didn't think they were, like, bad. Like, they were just kind of like, here's kind of basically what the show is, I guess. But it also wasn't written by the author, and, like, I didn't dislike them, but chapter 1 was adapted in episode 3. And in general, like, that kind of follows the trend, like, I think I've discussed it before, where, like, like, what works for a manga chapter 1 apparently doesn't work for anime episode 1. So a lot of the times, like, with Hunter x Hunter, the 99 adaptation had to lengthen that material and add stuff. The 2011 adaptation skipped stuff and kind of went straight into chapter 2. One Piece kind of moved chapter 1 to, like, episode 4 and then started with a complete, like almost a retelling or reimagining in some, like, at least the setting of chapter 2. Like, it just tends to change a lot. Like, it's sometimes you get these adaptations just do something different. And, well, the other weird thing about Gintama is that, like, it introduces a bunch of characters, like, a lot of the ones, like, the ninja lady who shows up later in the reading, she's in episode, like, 1 or 2. A lot of characters are in it, like, because this reading basically is, like, introducing the principal cast, and most of these characters, if not all of them, show, like, the recurring ones show up in the first 2 episode, the 2-parter. So, like, it's kind of, weird, like, because you're just getting, like, so much, like, it's just, because, and I don't know the exact reasons for it, but, a lot of people don't care for it. And, it's not that I don't see the reasons for it, but, I also knew it wasn't well liked, so I was just like, that was an episode I just watched, so, or a 2-part I just watched, but anyway. And I guess another difference between, like, me reading Gintama and me watching Gintama is when I watched it, I was doing it, I watched one episode of something a day, like right now I've been watching Legend of Galactic Heroes, rewatching it rather, one episode a day, and I was doing that with Gintama before, and I don't know, I feel like with the manga, I was able to go through, like, a couple dozen episodes worth over the course of 3 days, where in the anime, going through that same material took me, that would have been, like, 3 weeks. So, so I do think that maybe helped in some ways, but, I don't know, we'll see how it goes going forward. I just wanted to share a bit of just my experience, like, engaging with Gintama so far.
I gotcha.
But yeah, I don't know how much, like, because normally I kind of go through, but it was so episodic. Like, I definitely want to talk about, like, the individual stuff that we wanted to talk about, but I don't feel necessarily, I'm not sure if I feel the need to dwell on, like, not every single chapter, but at least the ones we found interesting. But I guess, what do you think about the setting, specifically? Because it's, you know, samurai, but also aliens. Like, because you didn't know anything about Gintama, but,
I do think that the whole, I can definitely see where the story could potentially get more serious later. And, like, later on, there are kind of moments, even in this early stretch, where there are, you know, there's, like, I think of the one moment where the one guy shows up and he's, like, something about, like, demons, and Gintoki's like, oh, I have a demon in me, or whatever. So, like, I can definitely see how the characters are older, they have kind of, like, that, there was a war, so there's some sort of, like, potential backstory trauma that could come up later, and that definitely seems to be, like, a theme that is kind of being, like, set up early on, like, dealing with the past and, like, running away from it or confronting it, or a bunch of things.
Gintoki is, like, because again, this would have been running alongside, like, Bleach and Naruto and One Piece and Hunter x Hunter. And, you know, Gintoki, you know, he was a more adult protagonist alongside... I mean, not that, again, he was the only one. Like, I think Toriko would have, like, I started later, but it would have been running around the same time. And that's also an adult protagonist. And, of course, there's older stuff. Like, again, we just read Kinnikuman. And Fist of the North Star would have been from the same time period. So it's not like... I'm not saying, oh, he's unique to Jump, but, you know...
Gintama was a unique protagonist because while the majority of protagonists are kids, he's a teenager. I mean, an adult. I mean...
I was specifically trying to avoid that, but, like, I mean, I do think, well, like, because, you know, there's definitely this lean towards younger protagonists in general. Like, it is kind of weird to realize, like, oh shit, Luffy is one of the oldest protagonists in Shonen Jump right now. You know, this dopey child, but you know, Gintoki, he is an adult, and he has, like, because as a kid, you're, like, maybe not kid, like, teenager, late teenager, or young adult, you know, he had this, like, he was fighting in that war 20 years ago, and now he's kind of, like, still shouldering the demons of, like, you know, the loss that he suffered. Like, there were some, like, at least in one chapter that kind of went into some of his, like, post-traumatic stress disorder, I suppose, or just, like, the general trauma, and, that he's suffered then, and, I imagine it'll go into more of that. And of course, we have his, like, the comrades he fought alongside with, where, Takasugi, the one extreme terrorist guy, Katsura, aka Katsura, the less terrorist guy, and then there was the ship pilot guy, whose name I can't remember right now. This reading was just kind of introducing everyone. And, well, I guess what I had to say about the setting is the kind of, like, modernized, like, it's like Edo, Japan, during samurai times, but aliens came in and they you know, basically globalized it and advanced the technology and the culture to, like, modern day, basically. Like, it doesn't make sense for them to be reading Jump, no, but, like, that's not, you know, it doesn't matter. And, like, part of the reason I kind of figured that, because, like, a huge theme with Gintama is, like, the sort of, you know, the soul, the samurai soul, where, you know, samurai don't exist anymore, but it's about sort of carrying on that spirit and recontextualizing it for the modern day. Like, it very much draws on, like, I think in the anime, like, I don't think they used the visual in the manga, but in the anime they straight up had, like, people in sailor uniforms on the ships that first came to Japan, which is meant to sort of, like I mentioned it before, where American ships went into the Japanese harbor and sort of, like, forced Japan out of its isolationist policies, you know, and led to its eventual, like, modernization and globalization and just, you know, this massive, like, shift in its society. So we're, like, I guess in the sci-fi way Gintama is kind of doing it, I feel it's the I imagine, or what I kind of see the point as to it is, like, you know, because, you know, the narrative is exploring what the characters have lost in this transition, but, you know, to a modern audience, like, it's so distant that, you know, maybe it's not instantly, like, recognizable, where, but they also, like, okay, what have they gained? And yeah, they have a lot of this technology and a lot of, like, you know, modern culture, like Shonen Jump and idols and stuff, you know, so it like, kind of draws it closer, I guess. Like, it puts the characters of this sort of past era into a more, like, modern setting, so we can, like, yeah, Gintoki likes Jump, we like Jump, we can connect to Gintoki on that level, especially, someone reading reading the manga in Japan at the time and going out to buy Jump, and, Gintoki wants to go out and buy Jump too, so, yeah, it's got interesting stuff going on. Like, I think the reason that I'm not as into it is, like, I think the purpose of the comedy is partly there to endear you to the characters. And so if I don't find the comedy funny personally, then, like, I'm not going to be as endeared to the characters. Like, not that I dislike them, but I also don't feel, like, super strongly about them. Like, I guess if I had to pick a favorite, it'd probably be Kagura.
Yes.
So, yeah, I know, I showed you the thumbnail, and she looks really cute on the thumbnail. Like, she doesn't look like a little shitty brat that she is. But I love her anyway. In general, like, the characters are going.
Well, no, finish your thought, and then I'll jump in.
Oh, I was just gonna say they're all a bunch of assholes with hearts of gold buried deep down. Because they're just a bunch of dicks. But they when the chips are down, they're gonna be cool, and maybe also I don't know. That's all I had to say.
I mean, I do like, I personally, I think have enjoyed it depends. Like, some of the humor, there is a lot of, like, crude humor in there, like a lot of jokes about like poop jokes and body part jokes and sexual humor and stuff. But, like, I do think for the most part the way I don't know, it's just like a lot of absurd things will happen, and it's just like, yeah, this is happening, or like they will follow it up with something more absurd, and it's just like, what is happening? Like, there's the one chapter where the one girl just, like, falls in from the roof, and she's like, oh, we're gonna get married, and then they have, like, a whole, like, fight thing, like, the whole scene, and, like, in the background it's just like, oh yeah, and I'm doing this because Father, give me your blessing, and it's like, it's just a lot of, like, framing I don't know.
And Gintoki kind of rolls with it. I think I know what you mean.
Even if like in that particular example, it's just, it wasn't seriously fooled. He was just kind of doing it out of the kindness of his heart. But still, like, the fact that everything is framed through the weird circumstances that got to that point, it just, I don't know, it makes it interesting to read.
Yeah, no, it can be fun or funny. Like, that's, I've heard that, well, maybe Gintoki or Gintoki. See, I mix up, like, because they both start with Gin, and then it's a T sound, so it's, like, Gintoki, the main character, or Gintama, the series, and, like, earlier I think you said one and not the other, and I just did it right now, but the other way, so it's like, but, like, with Gintama, I guess, like, because, I've heard serious, like, Bakuman sort of described serious humor, which is, like, where I describe it as, like, in which the characters are being serious, but the action, what's happening is so absurd it comes across as funny. And I think some series that kind of maybe dip into that are JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or Metal Gear Solid, and maybe Gintama, you could say, because, like, a lot of, like, the characters are, they have their, like, little snide comments and their dialogue and stuff, but they're not maybe acting the most serious a lot. Like when they save the pond and they're, like, in Kappa costumes, like, there's a level of, like, absurdity to what they're doing. And, like, the chapter you just mentioned with Gintoki helping the Shinobi girl, like, he's just, like, falling in line with her, narrative, even though it's, like, obviously wrong, and helping her. But so there's, like, a seriousness to the humor. But yes, I don't know where I was going with that, but I got there. I don't know if I got there or not. I'm just gonna. And I guess, like, there's also just, like, wordplay with the humor too, which I hear doesn't translate, or the Viz. I don't. I've heard there's problems with the Viz translation. Aside from that, they dropped the series, like, 20-something volumes in, and it's just.
Right. We could talk about translations.
Oh yeah, no. What was it? You jump from the fan translation to official.
Well, yeah, because, like, the first 20 chapters were kind of like the fan I read the first, like, 20 chapters, the fan translation, and then it looked like the subgroup had switched or whatever. Like, I don't know, like, it was a different. The scans looked different, and
no, there were a couple, at least two. Like, I definitely noticed times when like the quality changed, the sort of, like, the writing or the translate, like just the way some of the wordings and things change. Like the term, I don't think the terms ever changed, but like yeah, you could definitely tell there was a different scanlation group that covered it. But go ahead.
But yeah, like once it got to a point where like I was having trouble like understanding what the characters were saying because the sentences were structured weird, and so I was like, well, and then there were also the fact that it kept using the R word. Yes. Which always pulls me out of the experience.
Which
but it wasn't
I should have
just
warned
like...
you about the one chapter that made you make the jump over because it gets said like every 5 seconds.
Yeah,
and
it was
3
ridiculous.
times a speech bubble, and I was just like, because I saw it and I thought, oh, Mathwiz isn't gonna like this, and then I said nothing, and I didn't warn you. Like, at least avoid that chapter. Yeah, that was my bad.
Well, like, I've definitely seen, like, instances, like, I remember in, like, the first season of Doremi, like, I think there was a case where the character just said, like, baka or something, and it got translated to that, and it's like, no!
Yeah, that's how 8th graders talk, yeah.
But yeah, so, like, I would definitely, like, this is an instance where I would almost maybe, I don't know. Like, the characters are definitely, like, not great people, like they're all kind of dumb and
yeah. See, I thought that's where I was about to go with it, but I think
that, I mean, like, so there's a degree to which like maybe I could understand them actually saying something like that, like out of context, or not out of context.
Well, like that's kind of what I was gonna say, because like yeah, a lot of them are kind of assholes. Though the thing specifically is also like, okay, when was this translated? Because like that the R slur specifically, like I feel like it's. The negative push against it is like within the last year or so, like even though it's always been not a good word to use, but there's just a level where, but like even 5 years ago, or more likely 10 years ago, when this, I don't know how long ago these chapters translated, it would have been way more like normal to use, and so like we're seeing that like datedness in here, where it's like,
well, what was interesting about this too was that like the fan translations had it, which is like, okay, fan translations will do that. I understand. It's not like a professional thing. So I wasn't surprised. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna find the Viz scans and I'm gonna switch over to that. I heard that they do the trans thing later, which it was fine. I was warned to that. But then like a couple chapters later, the Viz scans use the same word, and I'm like, oh no, because like. Even as bad as like the Yu Yu Hakusho translations were, or like the the Naruto, One Piece and all the pirate talk, like I don't think there was ever a point where like they used that word. So the fact that like this translation had it, I was like, oh, was not expecting that. That's
that
unfortunate.
Makes sense, especially because like Naruto and One Piece were very much like published with a younger audience in mind. Like there was just some talk on my server because after Asuma died in Naruto, Shikamaru picked up smoking, and in the Viz translations, which we both would have read, they cut out Shikamaru smoking because he's a minor and they can't show minors smoking cigarettes. But I remembered it as I read it when the chapters came out, because as someone who's I've had someone on my server re-listening to the Nen Show, and apparently I didn't mention the Viz censorship. Because I didn't notice, because I guess I just remembered it as, it was,
well, and there was definitely something similar with Yu Yu Hakusho, because at the end of the manga, Yusuke still has his smoking habit, but they change it to, like, he's eating Pocky or something.
Yeah, but that one I feel like that one's definitely and again it's like I guess different. So with Gintama, yeah, I guess it would be surprising to have it for it to say that, but maybe it was like because I assume it didn't come out like that much later. Like it would have been 5, maybe like 8 years. I don't know when it was published in English, because again it didn't get finished.
I mean, I'd imagine it would have been like early mid 2000s, because that's I think when.
Yeah, because like there's definitely a period where they were just like, okay, let's bring over more shonen manga, like Saint Seiya got fully published in America. Apparently, Kinnikuman Nisei, Ultimate Muscle got like just they had animes. Oh god, I've regressed. They've had anime adaptions. Like Ultimate Muscle on 4Kids. Saint Seiya aired somewhere. I know I've seen some of it as a kid, and obviously it was super popular in like apparently Spanish-speaking countries.
But I think you can also kind of tell that this is maybe more of an older Viz translation, because like they still use like the honorifics and stuff. Which I know, like, I've also looked at a few of, like, the Viz scans for Dragon Ball, and that's kind of a thing that they do. Like, they use different terms than, like, the English dub used or whatever. So I feel like this, if I had the data in front of me, I'd be able to confirm it, but it feels more of, like, you know, Viz back, you know, this is like older Viz, or maybe they're still trying to like figure out, because like in One Piece, or not One Piece, what's the, I don't know, like if you would look at some of their more recent stuff, like you don't generally see, you know, like they don't tend to use honorifics. They'll find a way to like replace it or whatever. So I you know, I think there are like pros and cons to it, because like they keep some of the like the Japanese terminology in there, although maybe in some cases that is for the sake of the joke being very specific to like wordplay or whatever it might be. Which I just think it's interesting.
Okay, I don't know. I remember the opposite, but yeah, no, because I did not read any of the official translations. I purely read the fan translations for this one. So I guess this one's a little different, where we've actually read slightly different translations of the material. So, yeah. Anyway, I guess to go back, I don't know if I said that or not, but like, you know, yeah, using, you know, the r slur is not a good look, but, you know, again, considering the time period and the characters being assholes, like, again, at least understand why that was made as a choice, but, yeah, it doesn't hold up well. But anyway, so to talk about the series, but yeah, like, they just kind of, like, go through and they just, you know, introduce the ideas and stuff, like, I already kind of talked about the, you know, keeping your integrity, like, because, you know, as we see a lot of this, like, Amanto-controlled world, there's a lot of corruption and shittiness. Like, the first chapter, you have Shinpachi's sister getting taken to, like, basically prostitution, and Gintoki and Shinpachi go rescue her. But they have to fight against, like, you know, because these are, we are outside the law, and the laws of Edo don't apply in the sky, like, you know, because they're in an airship and stuff like that. And, just like the whole, like, you know, they were kind of like getting too attached to the dojo, but you know, what were they sacrificing to keep that dojo, you know, intact, and like kind of balancing like those sacrifices and concessions you're making in like this new era and such. I don't know. See, there's a lot of ideas, and I'm gonna mostly be talking about them because that's mostly what I was picking up on. Oh yeah, so we also get Baka Oji 2, the sequel that's not as good as Level E's Baka Oji. I mean, no, that's not like a dig at him. I just thought it was funny that like we got 2 Baka Ojis in the Nen Show, like in the last like year. But he's just like a recurring kind of antagonistic character, like at least a troublemaker with his fucking animals. Though I did like the gag with the cockroach in one of the last chapters of this reading. Where he's like, the queen is the one named Goro or something like that. She was so cute, I let her out of my cage. I mean, what? And they're like, did you say that on TV? And he's like, I'm like, whoops, I almost doomed the planet. And he just like he's explaining. That was most funny.
No, I do think it is kind of interesting that in the early chapters you have, because they are episodic, so I don't know, that would have been like one of the characters where I wouldn't have been surprised if he didn't come back. But then like a lot of the characters who show up in the early the one-off chapters, they become like recurring characters, which is kind of neat.
Right, like that chapter also introduces the Madao, Hasagawa, I think, if I'm not the sunglasses old dude who, you know, he's yeah, well, he's kind of like, I've heard him described, and I agree, where basically like, you know, him and Gintoki are the closest to being samurai in the setting because they're like keeping to their ways, you know, even if the world pushes against. Though the difference is like Gintoki's strong enough to like maintain himself in the world, where Mado just kind of gets shit on, but like him, like there was a whole chapter where he became a taxi driver, and like he swapped out his sunglasses, like he's changed who he was, and like, you know, where it kind of used the sunglasses as in that regard of, you know, him and then of course he lost his job because he decided to be who he was, and who he is just doesn't fit with the world very well. So he keeps getting shit on, but he still maintains his samurai spirit, so to speak. Though, like, real quick, I want to say something about the title and how it kind of, because I mean, part of this is like, I mean, you could look on the Nen Show document, like the last arc is apparently called Silver Soul, because like some of the wordplay in the title, like Gintama literally means like silver, and Tama is short for like Tama. I think it's or Tamashi, spirit or soul. So the title is Silver Soul, but also it's very close to Kintama, which is testicles. So, and I think because there's like 2 one-shots that the author that are put into like the first 2 volumes, and I think one of them, or for the like the title, like a working title for it was like, Or no. It was in the first one. There was like a spirit thing going on, and he had like a spirit gun, and it was called like a Tama Keen. So it's like Keen Tama, but like flipped around. So he likes ball puns, I guess. I don't know. I just thought it was funny to see it twice in the first volume.
Well, I mean, there are just a lot of jokes like that, which are very
yeah. So
I mean, I don't know.
Dirty humor be like that, I guess. Did you have any characters or chapters you specifically wanted to comment on?
I did like some of the meta humor. Like when Gintoki's first introduced, and then like he does something and then gets like beaten up after the fact, and he's like, it was my opening scene. I wanted to make it look cool. And then there's a part later where he's like, don't worry, I'll hold them off. And then like turn the page, and he's like running back, and he's like, you only lasted one page.
No, yeah, apparently like. I don't know how much of this is like added to the anime because apparently but it goes more into like the meta stuff and the Jump manga, like to the point of doing full parodies of other series, though. And I did get to one which we'll talk about next time, because I'm pretty sure it's in the manga, but it's a parody of a Jump manga that would have been running at the same time, and it was my favorite episode in the anime, so I'm looking forward to bringing it up because it's kind of Kino. And I kind of hope that, like, I guess going forward, maybe the manga will do more of that meta stuff. Because, like, we like Jump. We know Jump manga. We've read 3 of the manga that would have been ongoing and, like, not only, like, and super popular at the same time Gintama was going.
You
on
might
this
like Jump.
Oh. Wait.
This has all been a lie.
Mathwiz hates Jump. She prefers Weekly Shounen magazine. But anyway, I assumed your shonen manga preferences. I'm sorry. I put words in your mouth. I'm terrible.
Well, I will also say, as far as specific chapter, well, I guess it's not like specific chapters, but just like more cool moments. Like I like Kagura's introduction, where she's just like running across the road, and they run her over. And they're like, oh, no. They're like, oh, she's probably fine. She's probably miraculously not hurt at all. And then there's, like, it looks like blood on the ground. And they're like, oh, no, I killed her. But then, of course, it all turns out to be good. Kagura is just very good. And the character introduction is just goofy and fun. And she's stupid. And I love her.
Yeah, no, one thing I really like about Kagura is because, yeah, she's, she's relatively new to Earth. And, she's not human. But, like with Gintoki and them, like, they'll say something and then she'll, like, repeat it, like, right after them. Like, she's kind of taking after them, like, the adults around her, basically, because she's kind of a kid and she's younger, and so she's a bit more impressionable.
And
like,
of course,
in that sense.
Surround the kid with terrible people, and she'll become a terrible person.
Right.
She's picking up bad habits.
Exactly. Like, there are bad influence on her. No. There was even the one chapter where she was gonna sell Gintoki's sword, kind of doing something shitty, and then she like realizes, like, she doesn't want to, like, she was saying something about, like, she doesn't want to be like Gintoki. She doesn't want to hold on to things, and she lets go of the sword, and so in that case, it's her, like, recognizing something she doesn't like about Gintoki and wanting to not be like that. So, they're becoming a good influence by being a bad influence, almost.
Yes.
Like, don't do it. Don't do what I do, and then, like, I guess, or something like that.
Well, and I also liked how in her introduction, she's like, oh, my family's poor, so I just want to eat, like, really fancy rice. And, like, that's her character motivation. That's her tragic backstory.
Yeah, like, I want to eat it with egg instead of this slightly cheaper topping. And like, is that your motive? Like, that's not very ambitious.
I also like how that comes back later with the wish granter, where she's like, oh, I want this fancy rice, but actually no. If that dream is accomplished, then I have nothing to dream for, so I don't want it. And of course, like, everybody's just being made. The guy is just like, why are all your dreams so simple and pointless?
Yeah. That chapter also, like, I liked when Gintoki was just like, I was just merely pretending to be a member of this cult, and Kagura's like, haha, yeah, we were just pretending, haha, because she's stupid. And then, what was I gonna say? Another Kagura chapter I liked was with the princess. Yeah, the queen of Kabukicho and the princess.
Yeah, that's another part where I really like the humor, because, like, she makes a joke in the beginning of the chapter, like, oh, I'm princess, or no, like, I'm like Queen Kagura, and then the whole time the actual princess is calling her, like, Your Majesty, and so inverts that, because like the you know, like the runaway child is like actual royalty, but she wants to just be like a normal person. And so it like turns the joke, like it integrates it sort of like into the message of the episode, because she's like, she just wants to be a normal person. A good point. But you have like the royalty calling the regular person like Your Majesty and like playing into the joke. So it's like funny, but it's also, it's good. Good characterization.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, because, yeah, you could kind of see it as, like, in sort of the princess's eyes, like, Kagura, like, because she is normal, and she has this life that she wants, and so she's kind of, like, above her in the hierarchy, you could say, even though, like, it's a self-made title, but, the princess respects it more than anyone, because, like, of the way she admires Kagura, and they become friends, and it's wholesome and good. So when you mentioned, Kagura getting hit by the car, I remembered, one, like, it was maybe one of the only things, or at least I could think of in this, maybe at least at the second off the top of my head, that made me laugh visually. And it's when, I think it was in the taxi chapter where, they were Hasegawa was, or, Mado was driving, and like, it's like, oh no, and you see like Elizabeth, and something about Elizabeth's design is funny, I guess, because obviously it's like some weird, possibly old man in a costume, but like just, and the way Elizabeth was in that panel, like with one of the arms up, like walking along, and then like she just gets hit and dies, and then they keep driving up, and something about that was like just the way it was framed was funny to me, because I guess just that, especially that one panel where you like, because the perspective is within the car and you see outside the window, you just see like very clearly Elizabeth just like walking, where like, because if it was like a human character, I don't think it would have had that impact, because there would have been like less detail, because human character is a little bit more complex, where Elizabeth is like, okay, round beak, big eyes, like a very simple design, to the point like I because I noticed this when rereading Hunter x Hunter, I think, because I think I'd been watching Gintama at that time, but in the last one of the last chapters of the reading were the nest at the top of the world tree, and I'm like, oh my god, look at all the Elizabeths, just because like they're birds and they have like these big eyes, and maybe it was a reference to Gintama, because Togashi's someone I can understand reading Jump, you know, but I just thought it was a funny little similarity. But yeah, it's that part I thought was funny. I guess there's also, as far as character introductions, we kind of get like the set, because there's the Yorozuya, which is the Gintoki's odd jobs, or the freelancers. There's a few different translations. Then like they're like the main group of characters, obviously, but then there's also the Shinsengumi, the police, the military police, who are like they're another like major recurring group of characters who have their moments. Like, I do like Ogita's running gag where he's like trying to fucking murder Hijikata like all the time for reasons unknown. And apparently, like, their just general appearance and use in the manga was helped it be popular, or like it surged interest apparently, and helped it keep from because again that really tenuous early Jump position, which I heard was also the case in Kimetsu no Yaiba. Like, I think when Inosuke and I guess another character first showed up, they also like helped the popularity of the series. And yeah, I guess I could see why they're like, well, because they're also like main characters, but they're kind of like on the opposite side of Gintoki at times. Like, especially Katsura, who's like straight up a criminal, where Gintoki like kind of does his own thing, so he's kind of at odds in this world. And like the Shinsengumi are basically like the Marines of the setting, in a sense. Like, they're upholders of this current world order and this peace, but they're also like directly protagonists compared to the Marines, who like are largely antagonists. Like, even Smoker, who's like a cool Marine, but he's still like against Luffy basically all the time. Like, he's still allies with him at times, but like where with this relationship with Gintoki and the Shinsengumi is like, sometimes they're at odds, especially at first, but usually they're together. They're working together. Like with the demon chapter where they go break up the fighting ring. Like, they're just straight up working side by side, you know? But yeah, I guess they're also interesting in regards to the conflict, because like especially the chapter where they're defending the one, I think it was a frog alien, who's like literally doing drug trade. And they're like, why do we have to defend this shitty guy who's like just causing problems? And it's like, well, that's part of like what the Shinsengumi, they're gonna, their leader, Kondo, like, he's like super gullible, but he's also like earnest, and like they're all following and respect him. So like they're I guess that's another kind of recurring idea that you have, is like the idea of protecting what other people want to protect. like, because that's why, like, because Gintoki, you know, he failed to protect on what he wanted. Like, people died. Like, friends of his died. He wasn't able to protect them. And now with the odd jobs, he, like, helps other people, like, protect what they want to protect. Like, in the first chapter, he helps get the... I know his name. Why am I forgetting his name? Shinichi? Yeah, okay, why did I forget his name? Yeah, he wants to protect his sister, but he's, you know, not strong enough to do it, so Gintoki helps him, and, you know, he's protecting what other people want to protect, and that kind of comes in the last arc that we'll get to, but, themes. That's just me on the Nen Show, just chanting themes.
I think I also
Shinpachi.
liked the,
What? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're thinking... Oh, Shinpachi was the one you were thinking
Why
of.
did I forget it? Say Shinichi. I knew it was like Shin, but I couldn't. Like, my brain just stopped working when I.
Well, I mean,
couldn't
they
remember the
also
rest of
do
his
make
name.
jokes, I think, at some point where they like mispronounce his name, but they do that with a lot of characters.
Well, I don't have an excuse because I've watched the anime. I just like my brain just stopped for like, and I also dislike him. Like, he's probably like the nicest person in the main cast. Like, there's a whole chapter with like his delinquent friend who he wants to help. And stuff, but
Craftsdwarf, you're being a real Shinpachi right now, you could say.
I know. I'm gonna say. What are you going? No,
Well, anyway, what I was gonna say, I was gonna talk about a different character. I really like the landlord lady.
Oh yeah.
You know, like Otose. Yeah, I really liked the chapter where Catherine, her like assistant, turns out to be like it was another one of the earlier ones where she like turns on her, and then we find out later too that she at one point was like she was like a criminal and like she went to prison and stuff, and so like she was having a hard time, like I don't know, so like her I don't know, there's like Otose, she's a very I don't know, like she's like the wise old lady person who, like, you know, she's definitely has like a bitterness to her where but I don't know, she's also got like the I don't know, the fact that, you know, like Gintoki and them, like they don't pay any rent, but she'll still like take care of them, and like she'll take care of this person who I don't know, like I think she had even said at one point, like she's not like the way she had described it, you know, she'll kind of like put it off, like, oh, I'm not letting this person work for me to like help her rehabilitate. I just need help around the shop or whatever.
Yeah, and like, well, then you got there was the whole flashback where she was offering food to her late husband.
Yeah.
And, yeah, like, and you know, because Gintoki got that food, he said like, well, you know, your old man's dead, but he can't talk, but I'll protect what he cared about, you know, and he decided, like, you know, Otose doing that like kind of random act, just like that, you know, not even directly, like, but you know, she did let him like eat the food, you know, like, so not like a direct act of kindness, like she's not feeding Gintoki, but she still like helped him, and in turn, like, you know, doing those acts of kindness can like, yeah, they do kind of come around and help other people, and like, yeah, with Catherine, like she did kind of like forgive her for stealing from her, and then she's just back in a later chapter and like, yeah, working there, and you know, she's giving this person another chance where otherwise, you know, maybe she wouldn't have gotten one, and. You know, she is very, again, like, when you're dealing with Gintoki, who's, again, kind of shit, you know, I can understand her feelings on some level, but also she's very forgiving towards him, and, like, and there's some jokes that I did kind of like the one where she's like, you know, okay, this month's rent is off, and he's like, okay, I'll pay you the next month, and she's just like, but what about the next month?
And there was
little moments like that.
I think there was another one where like Gintoki does something and Shinpachi's like, oh, do you think this will cover like the next 3 months of rent? And she's like, 1 month. But yeah, I just really like, I think, you know, I could go for like each individual character, but I do feel like there's a good sense of like, I don't know, in this first stretch of chapters we covered, I feel like there's a good sense of like community in Edo. Like, I feel like, you know, we've got all the recurring characters who are bouncing off each other, and you know, like, we're able to get. I think the comedy kind of helps fit into that too, because I don't know, we get to see different facets of these characters, and we even get like continuing on with Otose, we even get the one chapter which is focused on like the dying man in the hospital, the dying old pervert, who, you know, we even learn a little bit about like Otose's backstory. Like, at one point she was I forget the exact details, but like she would like smuggle food for these kids for the place that she worked at.
Yeah,
so,
which got her fired, right?
Yeah, but like she was taking care of these people who didn't have money. And so yeah, like
that's I guess that kind of fits into the main theme a bit of like kind of retaining her integrity, where like she is this like good person who's tends to be like on this like she's a landlady, she's an authority, and like in order to function she needs money, and she would be better if she was less of a good person, but she's making concessions for like like obviously she should kick Gintoki out and get someone who will actually pay the rent. But she's not that like cold-hearted and mean-spirited of a person. So even though she's like, so even though it limits her place in the world, she like, and her on maybe on some level like her ability, but like she still does these acts of kindness. She's kind of like Maro in a sense, but she hasn't been like screwed over nearly as much as he has. Were you trying to say something or?
I was just choking on water. I'm fine.
Oh no! I heard noise, and I'm like, is she trying to say something? I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you like normal.
Mathwiz, speak, and I'm over here just like dying.
Dying slowly, and it's like, no! You already died from mid with Kinnikuman. Don't die from water. You need water. Oh yeah, I guess speaking of the Shinsengumi, the first time the anime really got me to like laugh out loud, like, cause I've been like laughing at stuff, and like, cause I do find it amusing. I just don't like I like to laugh like out loud, especially if it's a comedy manga, though, like at least Gintama has other stuff going for it. But I think the first time I like really like laughed in the anime, I didn't find it as funny in the manga, and I'll explain why. Was in the chapter where Kondo gets first introduced, and he's simping for Shinpachi's sister hard and stalking her and being kind of a creep. And so like Gintoki and he duel over her, and well, the part that makes me laugh is in the anime when like because Gintoki cheats like a piece of shit, and then like Kagura and Shinpachi like beat him up because he's being a piece of shit, and like in the anime he's like Otai's like monologuing about how he may be like clumsy, and he resolved it, but he's she knows him, and like but he's like lying in pain, like he's like ow, like he's like he can't even get up, like he's like just moaning in pain, like in the manga he just kind of like lies there and he gets back up. So I just thought it was funny that he was in more pain in the anime, I guess. I'll leave that to how you think of me as a person, I guess.
You're the character whose name I can't remember, who's the person who likes watching people get hurt. You're the sadist. Craftsdwarf is a Gintama character.
Shit, no wonder I don't like the manga. I just see me in it, and my self-hatred bubbles, and it's like, well, I hate this example of me. I don't know, that's And you know what? See, like, because what I've heard of some things Gintama does is where it's like, because apparently there's this idea among anime watchers where it's like, oh, here, follow this watch guide to skip all the comedy episodes, and it's like, one, no, and two is like apparently like the comedy, like, if you were to try and divide like these chapters by like which ones are comedic and which ones are not, like they still all like introduce stuff, and a lot of them like build towards the ideas of the series. And like I just in general, I've heard like some of the ways that Gintama, like it'll bring back like a recurring character after a long time of not seeing them or something like that, or a minor character will become a recurring character. And like, so one thing I just kind of thought I had, because there's this one like old man who they keep using as like a stand-in for Gintoki because he just has the wavy light colored hair. And like a part of me just realized like maybe this character has like a really deep backstory or something, and like because he's just like right now I'm looking at this chapter of like the Shinsengumi kind of bump into, I think it's the same old man, and then like later during the racing chapter he's just suddenly on Gintoki's like motorcycle somehow, like. I'm just like thinking like that. I've only gone through so much of Gintama, but that feels like a very Gintama thing. So. Anyway, I'm just going to scroll through and find a chapter I feel like talking about. Oh, I guess there's the first kind of, like, arc. Like, I say arcs, but they've capped that at, like, 3 chapters long, total. Like, because there was the first one with the drug, the pirates, like, there was the girl they were trying to save, and then Kagura and Shinpachi got kidnapped, and Gintoki worked with Katsura or Zura. I don't they call him Zura. And, like... But it's like, his name's Katsura. And I'm like, wait, which is funnier to call him, though? And I feel like I had more to say, but I was just gonna say, yeah, they team up and beat him, but I feel like I was gonna say something more.
Well, I know that was like another case where the one character shows up, the girl, and it's like, oh, okay, here was a one-off character, she probably won't come back, and then she comes back with like her boyfriend later, and it's like more drug-related stuff, and so that was kind of neat. Although this is definitely where like I feel, when I mentioned like the translations earlier, the fact that like they're doing a lot of like, oh, she's fat, so we're gonna make jokes about that. And that's where I get like these characters, they are kind of pieces of shit. So you know what? Maybe they I don't know.
Yeah, like they kept calling, like at least in the fan transition, they kept calling her a pig, because she's fat, I guess. And yeah, like you said, they're kind of assholes. They're
pieces of they're trash, but they're the reader's trash. They're our trash. they're those kind of characters.
Yeah. I guess like there was some little notes I thought was interesting about the drug arc, because like, these aliens bringing these drugs to Earth, they're basically like making and Japan in general has a very harsh anti-drug policy even like today. I don't know what it used to be, and maybe there's like maybe there was some I've heard like opium addiction in China has like a history of being really bad, and so I don't know what happened in Japan, if anything. Like there was a reason that they're very harsh on drugs today, but like in general, because like the aliens have brought a lot of good things, like all this technology and have helped this cultural stuff flourish, but also like the drugs is a pretty bad. Like I thought it was interesting that the antagonist guy, he's like, he doesn't like his clothes getting stained. Like he's like, oh yeah, I gotta wash that out. Or I think after his first fight with Gintoki where he kicks his ass, he's like, oh, I need to get rid of these clothes entirely. Like he doesn't like being stained, yet he's bringing his like trash, his drugs, his poison to Japan. And then like, what was I gonna say?
So it's a bit of a contradiction, you might say.
Yeah, no, that right, exactly, that's true.
Character flaw.
And I guess there was also a line they had where it's like, because he's like, I want to go back home and watch the drama, and Gintoki's like, oh, me too, like, because again, they both like this thing of this changed Ito, which makes sense for the antagonist, because he's like part of what changed Ito, but Gintoki's a bit close to him, compared to Katsura, who's very much like anti-Amanto. He wants them gone, period.
Also, I noticed you keep pronouncing it Edo. Wouldn't it be Edo?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm bad at word. See, I'm. This is because I mentioned last time where there's a Shogun, Okama Shogun from Kinnikuman. I mentioned how like I'm so used to the English pronunciation where Shogun, like but I'm pretty sure Gintama was the one that made like, because there's a Shogun who like apparently we haven't seen them, but apparently like they're in a position of power in Edo. And that was what made me realize I was pronouncing it wrong. But apparently, even though I watched it and they said Edo a bunch, I didn't realize I was saying it wrong. But yeah, when Zoro rescued Gintoki, they also had like a conversation. I think that was about their Gintoki and like the weight of he wanted to protect his friends because he'd suffered loss in the past and he doesn't want to suffer more loss. And Katsura was willing to help him keep from losing, because again, I expect that Katsura has a reason to be very, anti-Amanto, because he was fighting against him, and so he probably lost comrades too, I assume. So
now that I think about it, thinking about the guy with he didn't like having the dirty clothes, and thinking about the stuff, the arcs, well, just in general, the arcs focusing on the drugs, and how in the second conflict, how the girl wanted to go clean and the other guy wasn't gonna, I don't know. It feels like there's this recurring idea, and it's kind of brought up by Katsura too, talking about, just Gintoki's past and how they've both kind of changed, and, talking about the dirt on their hands. So I feel like there's a recurring message here of past mistakes, filth, dirt. And I, not that there's a conclusion to that yet, but it's
right. We're 1/15 of the way or 1/13 of the way through the podcast. Yeah.
But so yeah, the one guy, always trying to cast off that filth. Oh, I need to get a new coat. I got a speck of dirt on it. I need to be flawless. Right. So maybe there's more to build on with that. Whereas someone like Gintoki, if he does have that dirt on his hands, how is he gonna go with that,
Mm-hmm. and kind of come clean of that burden and his history. So yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't considered that, and I'll try to keep an eye out for that in the future. I'm just skimming by chapters I already kind of talked about. But
I'm also looking at just like jokes to point out and be like, that was funny. Like there's the one, it's again like things happening and characters just kind of rolling with it. Like the one part where Katsura shows up at their house and his name, fuck, the dog, his name. Damn.
Sadaharu, I think?
Yeah, Sadaharu. Well, like, he opens the door, and he's just like, Katsura's just like, excuse me, is Gintoki here? And he gets no response, because Sadaharu can't talk. And he's just like, here's a snack, and he just, like, takes a bite out of his head, and it's just funny.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like, what I just realized is, like, he's in this world of Amanto, and it's like, he doesn't know if Sadaharu is, like, a sapient animal or not, or, like, can he talk? Like, so it kind of, like, it makes sense why he would think that way, but it's still funny because we as the audience know it's just a giant dog. I have a question real quick. What do you think about the art, generally speaking?
I mean, I don't dislike the art. Like, I think it's pretty good. It definitely, I think, gives me... I feel like Gintoki in particular kind of gives me, like, Ichigo vibes. But it could just be the fact that he's, like, a more...
light-colored hair and samurai kind of aesthetic.
And he has kind of, like, the... what's the word?
It's all... not... Well, he's permed, which is, as they say in, like, the fan translation, or the kind of, like, fluffiness to his hair. Well, Ichigo's more spiky, but...
Wait, but I guess I'm also thinking, like, his face and, like, his eyes, like, he has more of, like, a reserved, or, like... I mean, Gintoki in particular, it's more of, like, like, he has his serious moments, but otherwise he's described as having, like, the fish eyes. Like, he's very just kind of, like, the word, like, he's not interested. Like, he's... I don't know. And, Ichigo kind of has, I wouldn't say, like, the same thing, but, he's more of, like, the... People think he's a punk, and so he's kind of standoffish. So I kind of get...
And, if I were... Yeah, because, like, I'd definitely say overall, like, Ichigo's probably more expressive than Gintoki, but, like, Gintoki...
No, yeah,
like,
definitely.
Yeah, but, no, I can see where you're coming from, at least. I just want to mention, because, like, yeah, I think... I don't know, the art style overall is, like, I find, like, maybe not my thing, though I'm curious to see how the art evolves, as it often does, like... how long did he write this series? Like, well over a decade easily. Like, probably, like, 14 years, 15 years? Good while. I just, like, stumbled on this panel that made me think of it, because it's, like, they're playing that one, it's, like, I don't know the name of the game, but it's, like, there's a helmet, and there's a mallet, and, like, you play rock, paper, scissors, or something like that, and then, like, the loser, has to grab the helmet before they get hit with... Yeah, and, like, well, just this one panel of, I'm terrible with Otai, I think. Yeah, the Shinpachi's sister. Like, and she does with Kondo, and like, he puts on the helmet, and she still like smashes him. And like, I just noticed like, cause like there's like little tears in his eyes, and like his blood is like shooting straight down from his nose, and and he's got like little, like I just realized there's like a like drool or spittle from like shooting up from his mouth. Like I just like the way that like the fluids like ripping from his face are like they're going in opposite directions, which makes it more amusing. And like the tears and snot going up kind of sell the impact going down, but also the blood is just shooting down.
Yeah.
So it's just it's just a really goofy like.
And I guess for more on like the art point, now that you mention it, I do remember there being. Well, I guess this kind of happens in a bunch of stuff, but like there will be a scene happening and like a joke happening in the background. Like I remember the part where the killer guy with the kids.
Yes.
There's a part
I don't remember
where...
saying, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
There's a part where Shinpachi and Kagura are, like, staking out, they're, like, watching the place, and then someone shows up behind them, and they're like, oh, no, this is bad. And then Kagura starts, like, choking on a donut, and so, like, Shinpachi and the guy are, like, having a conversation, and in the background you just see Kagura just, like, struggling for air and just, like, falling on the ground, and it's... So there's, like... He's good at, like... The artist is good at using like the space as well for like
I should definitely like try to pay more attention to that, because like I do like, because like I like when it's like there's something going on in the foreground, like maybe important, and then in the background there's jokes. Like when you said that, I was reminded of in One Piece when they went down to Fishman Island, and like like there was like exposition going on about like they're going underwater and it's cold, and Brooke makes a joke about how like, oh, I feel cold, haha, but I don't have it, and Chopper's like, oh, because you don't have any skin, and Brooke like gets depressed, like, and it's a funny joke happening in the background while like there's also like more just dialogue and exposition in the foreground, and I like that, so I because I didn't really notice that, so maybe I need to pay more attention basically. So yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and then there's like another one I'm looking at here where it's like one of the earlier like episodes with Katsura. It might have even been his introductory episode where like something happens to like the male guy, like he gets run over or whatever, and they're like, oh, okay, we need to deliver this package, and it turns out to be a bomb. And so there's like the panel where like, well, like it explodes, and like on the next page they're like trying to run, and then they like catch each other's arms, and it's like, no, go on without me.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah.
So they're just like,
keep going.
You know, they're just like, the characters are just like dragging themselves down with each other.
Yeah, well, like I like the way where it's like, oh, that was a good example of like Kagura imitating the others, because Shinpachi says, Shinpachi's holding on to Gintoki, and Gintoki says like, shouldn't you be the hero and say, I'll fend them off, you two go ahead, and then or I'll stay back, you two go, or I'll be alone and you two stay or go or whatever, and then like Kagura sort of like flips that where it's like, I'll be alone and you guys you two go. Where she's at the end.
I didn't even consider that, but now that you mention it, yeah, that's
right.
That's
so
good.
She's like twisting what they say in like a dickish way, where she's being like, "I'll be the hero, you guys stay here, and I'll go solo." Like what but it's like it doesn't work because she's on the opposite position where Shinpachi's like, because basically they're all being shitty, like, crabs in a bucket. Like that's a great like display of that sort of analogy, because like apparently I've heard that like if you put one crab in a bucket, it'll just climb out, but if you put multiple crabs, if they try to climb out, they'll drag each other down. So in that case, it's like one of them could have escaped, but all three of them together they're holding each other back, so they all get captured because they're all a bunch of dicks.
And it does also, I guess, kind of do. Is it like the rule of thirds or whatever with comedy, or like like Shinpachi does a thing, Gintoki does the same thing, and then Kagura does like a similar thing, but it's like flipped on its head. And it's like, oh, it's funnier because it's the same but different. Right, yeah, like I know words.
I'm giving Mathwiz a thesaurus for Christmas. No, I'm kidding. I need one too. But no, yeah, like, because yeah, the rule of thirds makes sense because, like, for I guess a lot of time 4 is death. It's unlucky. But in Japan, in Eastern cultures at least. But yeah, that's maybe it also just like it's when it's starting to get a little old. But yeah, that's just to keep going through the chapters. One, I don't have much to say about the chapter in itself because it's just more of the conflict. It was the Kappa one, but I guess one thing I wouldn't have noticed if not for the fan translation. Because there's the Kappa, and he wanted to protect this pond because he made a promise with a human girl like ages ago, and like the others realized, oh, she's probably dead. But they protect the pond anyway, because again, protecting what other people care about and want to protect. And they notice a fish at the end, and look, oh, that fish is having fun being here. And the editor's note mentions, oh, reincarnation, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's what the point of the fish there at the end is for. It's the idea that the girl died.
Yeah.
And, so she reincarnated a fish, and so she's able to be with the Kappa, and like because they protected the lake, in some form. Like the Kappa is able to be there with the person who he was waiting for, and I was like, oh, just because I didn't think about that. But I've also heard apparently Gintama does like refer to Buddhist stuff, especially like later on. Maybe it's already doing it, and I just haven't noticed it. But like reincarnation's a very Buddhist thing. So
yeah, I do think that is a neat potential interpretation, because it's also like from the girl's perspective, she was never allowed to like leave that space because her disease was contagious, but through like the potential reincarnation, she gets to be in the open space. It's not it's there's more to it, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just skimming through chapters. There was Elizabeth's introduction chapter where like Katsura's like, Gintoki gets a pet, I want a pet.
Yeah. See, well, they do kind of do the meta humor again, where it's like, oh, he's adding more depth to his character, or like he's becoming a different character or something. And you have like the tough guy who's very like stern and quiet, and he's like, I want a pet. So he's got like the cute side to him too. It's very good.
Oh, that's very aesthetic character, I guess. Like, because I mean, I just thought of Gajeel, who had that, where it's like Natsu has a cat, Wendy has a cat. Where's my cat?
You're right. You're right.
Sees Panther Lily, and it's like cat. So yeah, like I hadn't thought about that until you like said it that way, and I remember. Oh yeah, but
I also liked how Gintoki had like described it as like on its own, that creature might not be odd, but next to you, yeah, it's odd. And he's like, wait, did you just call me?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Stop making me laugh at Gintama. I'm supposed to hate Gintama. I'm supposed to not find it funny.
Well, I like the humor, so tough.
Well, and maybe because humor in general, like there's a social aspect to it. I'm sure we've all heard of at comedy shows they'll plant people in the crowd to laugh at the jokes, and it makes other people laugh, or that's why they have laugh tracks in shows and stuff. And so when I'm reading it alone in my room, I'm not getting that. But if I was watching it with a friend, maybe I would laugh, and maybe you finding it funny is making me find it funnier than I would have just because reading it, I don't think I laughed out loud. I maybe had some smiles or no, that's amusing, but I didn't laugh. And now, but I have fun talking about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if there has been any moments where a joke has happened and I'm dying laughing, but it's definitely gotten a chuckle out of me. Or if I'm not actually laughing out loud, I'm I appreciate that. Another moment is when the guy gets the mail. I think it's from the same chapter where there's the male guy and he gets run over and they're like, Kagura, call an ambulance, and Kagura just shouts into the sky, ambulance, and Gintoki's no, don't.
That's not gonna work.
Literally,
right? That's not and that's another Kagura, because she's not familiar with Earth and how things work, so she's call for an ambulance. Okay, she literally does that. She's doing her best. Don't bully her. She just doesn't get it. She doesn't know what that means. She doesn't know what phones are. Gintoki, phones didn't exist 20 years ago. Shut up. I just thought it was funny. There was the firefighter chapter, which has the we talked about, kind of.
Yeah, that was where I switched translations.
Yeah.
But no, it was an interesting little conflict, because you had the character who, well, again, if you maybe want to look at it from the perspective of dirt and past, running away from the past versus how you're working with it, or confronting it. You have the guy where he's oh, I saved you because I I had to leave your parents behind. But then later on we find out that it's oh, he said he was just doing it for I forget the word, not honor. What was I don't forget the word. To repay a debt.
Repent.
Yeah, that's the word. But then no, he's well, that was how it started, but then it changed, and I got to see what it was like to have a family, and so I guess there's a degree to which that character, he he was trying to keep what is essentially his adopted daughter away from danger, because he watched her grow up and was now I know what it's like to have a family and protect. So yes. I guess you could say that he, I don't know, because originally he does it to repay a debt, so maybe it's more he's something about the past, but him changing that perspective is different somehow, with words I can't explain.
Because he kind of Gintoki comes in and kind of compares himself, he oh yeah, we're both soap bubbles, that's kind of how they describe, or I'm also this soap bubble that wants to fly higher. That's what Gintoki said. So, Gintoki's also this person who has this past, and he's trying to move forward, and he also has a family, but, Gintoki has already, on some level, accepted that family, and, maybe there's work to be done. I don't know, where it's going, but, yeah.
Well, and there was also the moment, where he said, oh, I don't want to watch, my daughter die. But she was well, yeah, but I don't want to watch my parents die either. So she was the character, the firefighter girl was also living with that kind of burden from the past. Originally, she had said oh, is it wrong that I try to, again, she also had the thing where she's trying to repay a debt in a way, because she's oh, is it wrong that because you saved my life that I want to, follow in your footsteps and fight fires and stuff? So you could say that, with that pretense being kind of shattered, and him saying that I didn't do it to, or whatever it was, that however he had framed it, the now if she fights fires, it's not out of a sense of she has to do it because of a past debt, it's more she's doing it because the person she idolizes does it. And so it's more like a
and she
forward
gets to be
thinking.
with her family. Like, yeah, right. Like, yeah, I guess that can be also kind of like, because, you have, like, if you're talking about the progress of time, again, there's that sort of, like, the change of Edo over the last 20 years. And so, like, finding a way to live in the present, basically. So instead of living burdened by these past demons, they find a way to live that's just, like, accepting the now and accepting the idea of moving forward, I guess you could also say.
And with that, I have already potentially said more interesting things about Gintama than I have ever said about Kinnikuman. Like, I'm already more engaged in the discussion.
You're not wrong. I mean, I don't think I'm there yet, because I did think I had some interesting things to say about Dream Tag, but also this is the first reading, and that was the third reading, so... I think, like, again, Gintama, like... Gintama's well written, I think. Even if it's like, if I say I don't find it funny, like, that's not like, and I mean, apparently that's not even fucking true, because here I am, like, enjoying myself just remembering some of the jokes and, like, you know what, that was funny. Even if, like, while reading it, I was just like, there's this image, I don't know what the original context when it's, but it's like watching X until I laugh, and it's like a 2 hour, like, there's a time code, it's like 1 hour and 53 minutes or stuff like that. And, like, there's a memeable potential there where it's just like watching Gintama until I laugh, and it's like me, Craftsdwarf, and then, like, it's like 20 hours or stuff like that. Like, I can see that edit being made. In fact, someone should make it. No, I'll make it. But yeah, just, but then, like, apparently I find it funnier than I thought I did, so I guess, I abandoned my theme of not finding Gintama funny.
Well, darn, I was really hoping that this would be the reading where I could get back at you for Kinnikuman, and I could enjoy something that you didn't, but it seems like that's not going to happen.
See, I kind of thought that too, because, like, I sent you the thumbnail, and you're like, yeah, Kagura, best girl, and I'm like, I'm so glad Mathwiz. I was happy that you're enjoying it, even though I didn't have that reading it, but I'm enjoying this discussion, so maybe I'll love the next reading even more. I don't know, because the next reading apparently, like, because, so I've unironically been told where it's like, yeah, if you don't like Gintama by episode, like, 61, it's probably not for you. And I'm just like, that's a lot of episodes. You realize that, right? Like, I know in the context of Gintama, it's 300 shy from the ending, but also 60 episodes is still, like, I could watch, like, a Toku show and a seasonal show.
Yeah, that's longer than a whole Magical Girl Precure season, Yeah,
and in the case
lot.
and in the case of Gintama's chapters, that's, like, this up to the second reading, which is, like, over 100 chapters, like,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, not over 98 chapters. Excuse me, just a little bit shy, and that's a lot. Like, because I kind of say something similar with One Piece, but it's like Bradier and Arlong ends before, like, before then. So, like, I can kind of understand that, but also especially like, it's still a lot. And I definitely understand, like, giving things the fair shake. And yeah, I even said, like, oh, I'll be sure to watch Gintama to that point, but I just couldn't take it after a certain point. But yeah, I think I was gonna go somewhere else with that, but now my brain just stopped. So anyway, just again to skip through chapters we've already kind of discussed. Yeah, they also introduced the shipper, the ship guy.
He ships characters.
Sakamoto, who, yeah, he was also one of the people fighting alongside Gintoki years ago. But now, well, like, I guess he's kind of, I mean, I'd say he's probably my least favorite of the four so far, like those four characters from 20 years ago. But, like, I guess, he's potentially interesting for the contrast because, like, so Gintoki's trying to find a way to live in the modern era while keeping his samurai spirit. Katsura and Takasugi reject the modern way to varying extremes, and, but Sakamoto, he accepts it. Like, he's fully, like, gone in on, like, he's using modern technology, like, this alien technology and flying to other planets, and, like, he's become more freed by the modern era in a sense. So...
I'm really glad that you pointed that out, because it makes what I'm going to say a lot cooler, because the way, again, like, the way that a lot of the jokes with him are framed plays into that. It starts off where he's introduced with Sadaharu, like, literally, like, biting into his head, and he's like, wow, I must have had a bad hangover, and he's, like, spinning all these, like, positive, sort of, like, positive thinking out of it, to an extreme. The characters are like, there's a limit to how far that can get you. Like, no, it's not that, like, you just had, like, a rough night. Like, there's literally a dog biting your skull. Like, we can fix this. But he's, like, so... like, for, like, positive thinking and, like, forward-minded that, like, whenever something bad happens, he's just like, oh, haha, it must have been this thing, or like he finds a way to like spin something positive out of that. Which plays into his characterization.
Yeah, that's a good point, because he he lost comrades just like everyone else did, but instead he goes out and interacts with Amanto and lives more fully in their culture, and he's took the best possible thing he could out of it, and even during the thing they get stuck in a shitty switch and they end up in the desert, and he's just like, man, it's pretty warm. So that's a good point. So you just helped me frame, like I said, my least favorite of those four. But now, that's cool. So I'm getting to it was a chapter with the underwear thief, which is like but mostly I like the Kondo being a creepy stalker. Like, maybe it shouldn't be funny, but like when they're talking about like the underwear thief, and then it just like under the table that they're talking about, like Kondo's just like already there.
Yeah.
Like, because he's stalking her. Like, when you get shit like that, it's just like, okay, that's kind of funny.
No, yeah, it's a funny recurring joke, because it comes up in other chapters too, where he'll just like pop out in the middle of a conversation, or he'll just appear there, like when they're sitting in like the sakura trees.
Another one I liked was when Otaishi went into the taxi cab and she's like, "Take me to Kabuki-cho," and then Kondo gets in like, "Take me to Kabuki-cho." And he's fucking following her. Like, he's just a creep, and it's almost, he's so, I guess maybe it's because of that like earnest dumb honesty, like there's almost something endearing about it, like, because he gets it's like, and the series addresses it, like they point out like, hey, you're being kind of fucking creep, and he's like, but I love her.
I do think that's also kind of potentially it's worth considering about the series in general, like, the characters will do goofy things, but also, like, with our protagonist not necessarily being, like, I don't mean this from the perspective of, like, you could take it from the angle of, like, you don't know the author, you don't know what, the author's ideals are. But even just from, like, the story specifically, like, not looking outside at context or whatever, like, like, all these characters, they all have their own, like, kind of flaws and, vices and whatever it may be. So like, even if a character does something and it might seem like, oh, the main character said this about a character, so that must be the definitive stance on that character or this idea or whatever, that's not necessarily the case. Like, I think of the chapter I think of, which is the one where it focuses on the Okama, and you do get a lot of the characters making jokes, or again, like, the characters like making fun of the one girl because like, oh, she's fat, and that's funny to them. But it's not necessarily like, oh, that is definitely like what the series is taking a stance on, or, I don't know. Like, I guess with like
you can definitely tell when it's like they're being jackass pieces of shit, and when they're like when they're being like jackass pieces of shit, but they have a heart of gold, and this is when it's like, okay, yeah, I can understand. You're being cool now.
You're getting it. You're using my word. You're like making my words sound smarter. You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from, because, like, and, because they're assholes, like, it can become funny when they get, like, shit on, or when something stupid happens to them, because, like, they're not the best people, but then, like, they also pick themselves back up, and, they keep doing their thing, and, and they help people, like, they're ultimately good people. It just takes a little work for that to shine through.
Yeah.
Because they're also pieces of shit.
Like another moment is when they go in to like rescue the drug dealer guy, but then like the girl jumps down too, and then Gintama or Gintoki is like, okay, well, this is too much for me, I'm leaving, we're just gonna leave you behind, and they're like, no, get back here, you're to save us. So it's like, even in like the middle of a mission, like they might be like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this thing, and then they'll be like, nah, this is too much effort, we're gonna back out. So yeah, it's definitely the reluctant hero archetype, you might say. I don't know why I said archetype. I don't know if that's an archetype. I might just be making things up.
Maybe. I don't know. It sounded fair, so...
But the reluctant hero part is correct. It's accurate here.
Yeah, that's probably why... Yeah, but it's fine. I didn't mind it. But anyway, moving on, I guess, to the next 3-chapter arc, so was the one with the old man who makes the robots, and Takasugi, who is... Takasugi just outright, like, wants this world destroyed. Like, I think there's even a way it's framed where, because, well, he keeps mentioning, like, beasts and fangs, and, like, oh, he sees Gintoki as a defanged Beast because he's just like completely like complacent and just doing things in this world, which isn't true. Like as he even says later, oh, you do have fangs after all. He can still bite, but Takasugi is a beast that doesn't have anything to protect, so he'll just destroy everything until his stomach stops growling, until he stops growling. I don't know why his stomach came in there, but I don't know. He definitely like Takasugi feels different because like he's an antagonist, but there's like no jokes about him.
Yeah,
like, there's nothing funny about Takasugi.
That definitely seems like the most blatant sort of like promise for the future of like something serious could happen here. Like this isn't just purely like a comedy, haha, action, funny times manga. Like him being on screen, there's definitely like a weight, a gravitas to him. Being there and, not very many jokes. And it brings out the more, like, serious side of Gintoki. So you can tell that, like, oh, we're going places.
Right. It was, like, it very much, like... And it's also good set for the future because now, next time we see Takasugi, it's going to be, like, a shit just got real moment. Because now we know he's, like... We know who he is. We know he's serious business. What were you going to say?
Well, yeah, because I guess thinking also, like, the other people we've seen from Gintoki's past, like... Katsura, he has a soft side. He's a bit of a soft boy. He's got it in there somewhere, buried in there. So, like, you do have characters where they do have also kind of the like, humanizing comedic undercurrent, which I guess works well for, like, the recurring side characters. But if you're going for, like, more of a serious antagonist, or, like, I don't know. He feels like he could be more of a driving force.
Well, I just realized a good point of contrast because, like, he and Katsura are like literal terrorists. Like Katsura, like the bombs are almost a joke with him. Like in the taxi episode, where I think it's a taxi episode, he just like leaves a bomb in the car or stuff like that. Or maybe that's a different one. Or I said episode, but I meant chapter. But like, he still like targets like people. Like he like in this one with the drug dealers. Like the law is unable to go against certain people due to the restrictions, but Katsura is kind of free to go against bad people because he's not bound by those laws. Where Takasugi, what he's doing in this chapter is he is like taking this old man, this engineer, who is hurt by the loss that he suffered, and like abusing him. Like he is he's using that pain and trying to get him to cause even more pain.
Yeah.
Like there's like a negative bend to like how he operates as like, again, he's not like, you can say he's doing something similar to Katsura, but like Katsura, I don't think he, like, obviously he's supposed to be like funny and likable, so he's probably not gonna let like innocents come to harm, even if like, or at least he's gonna try and target the system, and which is a little like he kind of leaves bombs all over the place. So but there's just that difference in how they're framed is what I wanted to point out. Because the stuff with the old guy was good. His his loss, his son, and the robots, and kind of like the son wanted him to smile, and he hadn't been doing that. And Takasugi hadn't been like the way he sort of like tried to move him wasn't helping him either. Like I think Gintoki even tells him that you're not even moving forward at all. Like because he sees Takasugi's like advice as a way to move forward, but like it doesn't. He's not smiling. He's not doing what his son wanted. But until at the end when he's freed from that and he's able to he just like runs away and he's helping the kids and stuff fix their toys.
I also thought it was interesting how the robot version of like his son, or the one that was like named after his son, would only say like affirmative, like never sort of going against the creator's wishes. Whereas like it plays into like the fact that his son went off and did something he wasn't supposed to do because he was like disillusioned with his father.
Like that's a good point. Like he regrets, he wishes if his son had been follow his authority as a parent, then he wouldn't have died, is like kind of what he internalized. And so he made this like a robot who's just completely like agrees. That's a good point.
And it's again where like the comedy plays into it too, because there'll be parts where they're like, oh no, this robot's fine, and they're like, and he's like affirmative, and they're like, no, you're missing your arms, like you're not fine, like be willing to stand up for yourself. And I guess like he did have moments where like if you insulted him directly, he would like he would like punch you or whatever. But otherwise, like it was a case where like the technology reflected like the character flaw of the creator, and it's like
Yeah, and you can kind of like tie that back to the keep your soul thing, where like the machine, he's just like he wasn't allowed, like he was sort of made to follow his purpose, where his son did follow like what he wanted to do, and yeah, he did die for that, but his father didn't take it like the way his son wanted him to take it anyway. So yeah, it's maybe there was more I could have said there, but my brain kind of stopped working again. It just does that. I should probably see a doctor. That was a joke. I think I'm fine.
No, Craftsdwarf, you can't explain it. This is a comedy manga. We need to have our own like recurring lore jokes in the background where people need to be like, wait, is that real or is it a joke? We gotta like, we gotta commit to the bit.
Yeah, that's. I got called out. Wait. Looking at some chapters I just don't have that much to say about, so I'll just bring them up in case you do. Is the one there's one on where they have a beach episode and there's like a giant fish that's not actually a bad fish. It's actually pretty bro. That happened.
I did like the part where they leave the guy out as like a sacrifice, and then when the fish comes back and like has him like has like the thing he's strung up on in his mouth, he's like, I'm coming back to get you, and it's like, oh, they've teamed up somehow.
Yeah, that was fun. And then after that was it was a mosquito Amanto, but it was like a ghost story kind of thing where she's going around like wounding all the guys, like a Gintoki and gang. They kind of come in to pretending to be like exorcists and in dumb outfits. Did you recognize them at first? Because in the anime, like I didn't have the chance to like, oh wait, is that actually them? Because like I recognized the voices, but
I don't think right away, but like before they were revealed as the characters, I did get the like, oh wait, it's just them, isn't it?
Yeah, because like I get definitely like, looking at this guys is like, because Gintoki is really obscured, so I would like that one. Kagura is like a maybe because also she still has like the Chinese kind of inspired outfit.
Yeah, I think Kagura was what kind of gave it away for me because I was just like, wait a minute.
And then like once you see Kagura, then you're like, okay, but where's Shinpachi and Gintoki? It's like, oh, there they are, like right next to her, because because again, I didn't have the chance, so I was wondering like, I wonder, how did she figure out what right away? Did she need a couple panels or pages, or like once they start getting the slapstick, like that's there they are, like there's something iffy going around there. You're gonna start questioning it, but
well, there is one joke where I did figure it out immediately. It was for a different chapter, but like they do kind of the similar thing where they dress up as the doctors in that one, so that's what made me think of it. But where like the nurse falls in love and the first thing that they show is Elizabeth, but then they're like, oh, it's Katsura, and I was immediately like, no, she's in love with Elizabeth, she's not in love with Katsura. And sure enough, that's the joke at the end, and I'm just like, yes.
See, I think I remember that from the anime because that didn't register. Yeah, because I just like, it's just, but I'm cheating. Also, I just realized I might be wrong here, but I think there were chapters that weren't adapted in the anime, like the whole one with the firefighter. I don't remember that one from the anime at all, so I don't know if it just like washed over me or if they just actually didn't adapt it. So if anyone knows, like, oh, they didn't adapt this chapter or that chapter, or they added this chapter earlier, like, because I've already watched ahead, so, but yeah, if someone knows, just, like, I'm not saying, like, go do the research for me, but, just you happen to know, I'd be curious. And just if you like any anime differences in general, because I have watched it, but Mathwiz hasn't. I do like talking about the anime differences because, they're interesting. And Gintama's anime in particular apparently does some, like, really cool stuff. And people like it a lot. Though I have heard people like the manga better, because apparently like later on they like reorder some of this, like restructure some things, which I've heard kind of gets in the way of some of like the messages and conflicts and stuff, even if like, because like they adapt some of the comedy stuff separately or something like that. I don't know. It's it sounds weird, and I guess at the end of the day, like I'm glad we're reading the manga. Like when I was watching it, I was given a watch order to watch it in like closer to the manga order, basically, which involves like literally stopping one season and then watching the next season and then watching the rest of that season. Like it was weird, but I guess it's just how it was adapted.
You gotta start with chapter 200 and then go back to chapter 50 and read about 20 and then go to chapter 600. Oh no, Mother's Basement
was right! I'm sorry, that was a... Oh yeah, there was a chapter with the katana hunter that Kagura was gonna sell the katana I kind of talked about. The one with Shinpachi and his delinquent friend I also kind of mentioned. I'm not sure if I want to go more into that, but I'll bring it up again just in case. I did like the line of like, even if your friend is going down a dangerous path, like even if it costs you your friendship, then like you should still help them, you know, like, or just because like, you know, like if Shinpachi really cares about his friend, he'll do the best thing for him, even if like he'll sacrifice his friendship for it, you know. So
I just remembered that whole conflict though was like predicated on the fact that like, oh, as a kid he like shit his pants in school one time, and it was like, oh, and that's what set me down this dark path, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah. You're right.
So it's another case where like a silly thing you know, it's like taken seriously and like spawns a whole conflict and a character arc, and so it's just
that's you know what, that's very much like a serious humor moment where it's like there's this race going on and there's goofy things happening in the race, but also it's really serious, and you just sort of sit back and it's like, but like this is all started because someone shit their pants.
And it was played up also in the same, you know, like in the same breath as like the oh, if your friend's going down a dark path, you should save them. Or, like, you know, you should stick with your buddy. So, like, if your friend shits his pants, you should help him out by also shitting your pants. And it's like, no, wait, maybe, I get where you're coming from, but maybe not quite that far.
Yeah, and the way the race, like, boils down to just, like, a foot race because all the vehicles got destroyed in the chaos was fun. Anyway, now we get to the Okama chapters. And this might have been my favorite arc, or at least one of the ones I found really interesting. And it also kind of, I don't know, like, but I'm also, you know, there's a level of like, you know, but how did Mathwiz feel about it? Because, like, I still haven't done any research into Okama and just transgenderism in Japan in general. So, and like, see, now I think about it, like, Okama in general, like, apparently, yeah, if they, like, I don't know how old it is as a sort of a form of expression. Because, like, here's this Edo setting, but I don't know if it's, like, is it a modernization thing, or were there Okama, like, a century ago? I don't know. I don't know, how did you feel about these chapters?
Well, I know that, like, I definitely understand, because this is also a complaint that people have had against, you know, like, the Okama in, well, I guess just in general, but, you know, I think of, like, the, you know, the ones in One Piece, or, like, there was the one guy in Fairy Tail I remember, where there is a degree to which, like, I understand that, like, it plays into a stereotype of, like, the transgender predator. Like, they're these big people who are, like, you know. So, like, there's a degree to which I understand why somebody might still be off-put, even though I kind of... I think I like where this went. We're kind of focused more on, like... You know, the character talked about how, like... Oh, to be, you know, a person like we are, you know, you have to be like, I forget exactly how I said it, but like you have to be strong. Like there's a strength in being, you know, willing to like present yourself the way that these characters do.
Like, you have to have pride in yourself to be like yourself. Well, because like there's, I guess one thing I find kind of interesting in Okama compared to like, again, so I'm going to say this completely as someone who, again, has not done research, has only like seen this in various anime and manga, and like I'm not Okama, you know, so I'm not speaking from like a subjective lens. This is purely like me like looking at this abstraction in art and kind of making a guess, and I want to learn more about it, but I still want to give this idea because like this kind of explores it, because like from my understanding, like there is a level of like hegemony in Japan with like gender roles. Like there's the housewife and there's the salaryman dad. Like Pause and Select had a great video on Sweetness and Lightning's counter-hegemonic masculinity, which talks about sort of like, he gives 3 manga examples of manga with like dads who cook. And like there's the oldest one where the dad's like literally hiding it, and it's like a comedy thing, like, oh no, if they find, he's like a salaryman, but if they find out that I like cooking, it'll be embarrassing. Like the idea of him like not conforming to his gender role is like part of the comedy because it's supposed to be like goofy and absurd. Where the next one was like more of a shoujo thing, and he was like I guess a parent figure to this younger child, and but him cooking, he was like fulfilling a mother role. Like there's a level of like not like, it's not a manly thing, it's not a guy thing to do basically, but compared to Sweetness and Lightning, which is more modern, where like he's just a dad who cooks, and it fully is like fine with that as a single father. Like there's no, oh, he's filling a mother role, or oh, he's got to hide it. Like he's just a dad who cooks. Like it just sort of just accepts it.
I think I know where you're going with this in regards to the Gintama
so where
thing.
Okama, they're kind of like, in response to that sort of like very hegemonic system, they're, I guess it's like, this is how it appears to me, is that they are people who can play both roles, and that's very much what, or at least in the case of Gintama, that's literally what's happening. Like, because like there's the whole thing with the son who's kind of like, you know, he's fine with it with his, you know, mom/dad, but he just like he doesn't like people make fun of him. And then especially the moment that's like where, he's about to say mom and he says, no, call me dad. Because like normally, she's like a caretaker, a mother. But in that moment, he was a protector as a parent. So he's a father.
Yeah.
So he's filling both sides as a mother and a father. And he's, and there's a fluidity there. But, so
yeah, and I really liked how it ended too, where there's almost like not like poem, but like it's like a little thing written by the kid where he's like, like it's my father, but also my mother, and it was very like sweet, and it was very clearly like coming from like an accepting, it was less of like, I think back to like, when I came out to my family, and it's less like they were disappointed in me and more like they were concerned about like how others would react, and so like from this kid's perspective, he's like, like even at the part earlier on when I don't remember the character's name, but when he was like, oh, call me mom, and the kid was like, okay, mom. So like he like the child wasn't like embarrassed by it, but he was like he didn't appreciate that people would make fun. So it was less of like a personal thing, like, and more just like why can't people accept him for like who he is and what he's doing. So it wasn't like an embarrassment thing. It was just like a vicarious, just like not appreciating the cruelty, I guess.
Yeah, like, because he got bullied for having a quote-unquote weird parent, and, and that weird parent, even though, like, is kind of, like, he forced, like, Gintoki and Katsura end up working for the place, but, he's still, like, runs the saddle, and he's like, yeah, he's really strong, he protected his son, and that's, like, what he, that, and that's, like, good, like, there's positive qualities to him that are worth, like, respecting. But, not everyone's, they just see the Okama-ness and, like, the that sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? That not, it's not normal, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like the non-conformingness. I forget what nonconformity.
Which, and yeah, it is kind of like how the Okama in One Piece, like they use the freedom of expression as like they're literally revolutionaries. They go against these this where with Gintama it sort of ties into the samurai soul and like being yourself, and because even though he like there is like harassment and shit going on, like he's still himself as a father and a mother, and the son accepts that, and it's good.
And this is also just like another, because you mentioned it ties into like the soul thing, which again it's like. When people will make complaints of like, oh, people are just like, when people will do like representation for representation's sake, it's like, no, generally there's a reason for the thing to like exist. Like, for Gintama, the fact that the character's like identity factors into the whole message of like being true to yourself and like being true to the soul. And, Gintoki even has that one line at one point where he's like, even if my heart stops beating, I would rather that happen than, have my soul split, or how exactly he had phrased it, I don't remember. But
No, yeah, but I understand the meaning. Well, yeah, he'd rather die than give up his integrity, his samurai soul, right?
Yeah.
Which was what it was implying there, but it's good. And this, like I said, it might have been one of my favorite little arcs, just because I thought, it handled the subject matter with like, not just like a level of like. Maybe again, like you mentioned the predatoriness, and then there's also the kind of...
there was even the little part at the end where the conflict is over and he's walking away and he's like, oh, I don't want you to come back to my, like you're not working for me anymore. But he says something like, well, if you ever need like a, I don't know, like if you ever want to come back for a fun time or whatever, he's like, I'll give you the special treatment. It does like a wink, and that makes me think a little more to like the it's a very like. In this particular context, it's not much of a thing, but like I see it from also like the broader sort of I kind of lost my train of thought, but I had brought it up earlier, so hopefully you're drawing the connection that I had said earlier to the thing.
Okay.
There's like a degree of like I'm gonna say sexuality, but that's not quite the word I'm looking for. But though it's more like
well, he's viewing the main character like sexually, I guess, maybe, or
sort of. And I don't know, but anyways, like I guess I kind of had said it earlier. Like I understand where people might be kind of, because they do like jokes and stuff too. And I know like in the Viz translation in particular, they do refer to the characters with an outdated trans related term.
Yes.
But there's like a degree to which also, you know, there is like somewhat a conflation between like, because I did a little bit of research into this for, you know, like when I made my Togashi trans characters video, and like it's tricky when it comes to Okama because there is no like specific term for being transgender, like not like, you know, how we use transgender in like the West, where it's like very clearly has a specific connotation to it. Okama is kind of like, there's a degree to which it's very broad and kind of all encompassing. So it could be, you know, like a cross-dresser in this case, someone who has more of like a fluidity of their identity, but it could also, you know, a character who is more specifically presenting like the transgender sort of like experience where they are like, you know, assigned a gender at birth, but they are, you know, presenting the opposite of that. You know, they might also be called an Okama, even if that's not necessarily, you know,
Gotcha.
so like,
so it's kind of like wrongfully used as a catch-all when it seems to be, or
and there are other
tends,
terms too, like in Yu Yu Hakusho, when the one character shows up, they refer to her as a new half, which is more of like
that's
show
business.
okay. More of like a, yeah, there's more of like a media like connotation with that.
I was about to mention that one because of 20th Century Boys, which is where I heard that term. But again, I don't know the full context around it. Even though, like, because when I was mentioning Okama, I kind of thought about the characters in, you know, 20th Century Boys that were referred to that by that term. But like, yeah, again, I get, because I want to know more about it because like it is a form of like at least, you know, it's and it's something I've seen in these stories, like especially like One Piece, you know, literally my favorite thing ever. And now Gintama, which we're talking about right now. So it's something I like. That if I knew more about it, it would help me understand things better. But I just don't have, like, I just haven't looked around enough. Like, I keep saying I should research it, and I just don't do anything. So, you know.
So, I mean, like, so I guess as far as, like, the term that they use, I guess I'm not, like, particularly offended by it. But then again, I guess, I don't know, like, as being someone more knowledge, you know, like, more, like, personally invested in, like, that community or whatever, like, it, you know, it's different, like, when I see them use, like, the R word because, you know, like mental health or like mental illness and stuff is not generally like, there's still a degree to which we as a society could come to respect that more and like be more delicate about, you know, or handling it with more sympathy and not, you know, like demonizing it as like, oh, this thing.
Yeah, I definitely think, well, because like, look, you've had to go through your comment section when you made the Togashi trans characters video.
Yeah, so I guess there's a degree to which I'm desensitized. Maybe that's
right.
The word
Well, that's
I'm
what I was
for.
about. Because like I was talking to a coworker at Fumax, who I still talk to, and he's black, and he described an incident like of racism. He encountered racism on TV, on Xbox Live, and I got mad. But I don't experience it, you know, every day.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so of course I'm not desensitized to it. So I recognize, you know, I was able to recognize it, and you know, but he was just like, this is just a thing that happened to him, and it's probably happened to him a lot. Like I wouldn't know. This is the only time he brought up anything like that, and I've never asked him about it. But you know, so yeah, with that trans slur, like. Unfortunately, you've probably heard it a lot. So, like, yeah, on some level, and even not
yeah, like even if it's not like directed at me,
yes.
Yeah, it's just like something I've come across.
Like one of Togashi's characters, like or something like that. Like, because like I said, you had to go through the comment section. So like, and because I've had that feeling too, where I've seen people be, you know, transphobic, and I block them or something like that, or I have this like, because I don't see it as much. I'm not desensitized to it, where it kind of washes over you because you've seen it a lot, and that kind of sucks. But you know, I kind of like I guess I understand what you're talking about is what I mean. Like, and not just from your examples, because. But yeah,
so like the point of bringing that up though is like, there's a degree to which, you know, like again, like as kind of like a jokey line that they just kind of throw out, I could understand, you know, maybe that's even like, I mean, because you know people will. There's a degree to which there's also like, you know, just any sort of like gender nonconformity or like sexual deviation that they all just kind of lump together. So like I could understand even if like, oh, in this particular case, like Okama, and the fact that like they didn't translate Okama, at least not in the Viz version, I imagine not in the version you read either. They didn't like go for an alternate word, like they just used Okama as itself. But so like maybe there's a degree to which I could nitpick the way that they used it, and it's like, well, that's not even, it might not be like 100% accurate in this case, but you know, it's like as
the
like a
fan
little
translation
joke.
did
I
use
could
the term
also
Okama, by the way, so just wanted to state that.
Okay, yeah,
real
I
quick.
figured like if the official version didn't translate the term, I had imagined that the scanlation would not have either. But yeah, so
so gotcha.
But yeah, so I guess that's this kind of ties into, I guess, like my just sort of general stance on like whenever Okama appear in stories in general. Like I understand the some of, like I don't, there's a degree to which I still could learn more. But you know, so like understanding that there is in some way like a conflation between being transgender and like being an Okama, but they're also not always the same thing. So I guess that's where like I'm aware of. You know, it's like a complicated thing. So I'm aware of like not trying to think of a different word besides conflate, because I've been using that a lot. But like I understand that it's like now I can't think of where I was trying to go with it. But like I don't know.
I mean, one thing I was gonna say is like I just wanted like Okama. It is a form of self-expression, and I tend to. Like,
so now that I think of what I was trying to say, because like I don't look at this and see it as like bad trans representation, because there's a degree to which it's not even that. Like, yes, it's gender non-conforming, but that doesn't necessarily make it a character specifically trying to like, you know, and the character isn't like rejected for like trying to present differently or whatever. So like, I guess that's what I was getting at, is like where someone might associate it more with like, oh, you know, like bad trans stereotypes or whatever. You know, I understand that like there is a bit of a connection there, but there's also a bit of a disconnect. So like, that's why I guess when I see this stuff, I tend to not be, you know, put off by it much.
Yeah, like, well, the fact that you even said that Japan doesn't have like a word, just a straight word for transgender, like, it's because Japan, like, gender is a form of expression, and even though like we can, you know, connect to certain like just general masculinity and femininity in, you know, Japanese culture, like, but there at the end of the day it is still a different culture, and there are like different ways of expression, you know, like there's the Yamato Dashi or the Yamato Nadeshiko, which are like the sort of like masculine Japanese spirit versus like the what the sort of ideal Japanese housewife kind of thing, like sort of like idealized femininity and like idealized like masculinity, and then you have again these, so it would make sense that if they have slightly different takes on gender, then they would also have slightly different take or even majorly different takes on non-gender conformity. And like, so when you're talking about something so cultural, like on some level you have to like understand and respect the culture. And with me, like I tend to, you know, want to defend forms of expression, you know, even if most of the time that's usually art, which is an expression, you know, and I want to, you know, speak in defense of it very like with some of my videos. But I still like with Okama, like whenever I feel like whenever I see people talk about in Western sphere, it's usually like, oh, this is like, yeah, what you're saying, it's bad trans representation, like, or it's bad, it gives the wrong, but it's not, again, that's not really a nuanced take on it, and so I don't really, you know, like, and maybe there are problems with it, but, you know, I'm probably not going to accept a take on that from Western spheres. I want to hear what the Japanese side of the discussion is, because like one quote unquote problem I could possibly like is like, because even though like it's non-conforming, it also in a sense still like conforms to the hegemony of the two, you know, male and female, you know, so it's, but that's also like kind of not, you kind of know what I'm saying, at least, like,
yeah.
And that could be seen as a problem, but also like it's still non-conforming, so it's at least not like I could at least understand that as a potential argument, but I'm not going to make that argument. But maybe that's also part of why people have this disconnect with it, or just in general, like Western viewers having a disconnect with you know, Japan, a Japanese story, which is another thing I try to talk about a lot, is that like, yeah, it's from a different culture. Like there's things you need to like have in mind when you're going through that. But anyway, I feel like we've talked about this for quite a while.
Yeah, I know. But, I tend to like, I don't know, because I've made like one video talking about like gender, so I don't have many outlets to. So maybe if I tend to go off a little more when it comes up in these discussions, I apologize.
That's like one, like we have our running things with the Nen Show, you know, aesthetic characters, arc rankings, and every time anything remotely transgender comes up, we talk about it for like half an hour. Well,
because again, like thinking about like this chapter, and you know, like there's a lot of one-off chapters, but this is one that, you know, kind of stuck with me more because like, hey, there's something I find interesting about this.
Mm-hmm. Right. even and it's just, and like it's not a subject I'm not interested in, even if I'm not like, I'm myself, I'm not trans, but a very good friend of mine is trans, so I like, and I do like think it's important to respect and even discuss, even as a cis person like myself.
And I think to wrap it up, I think like it ends on a good message, so. Even if it does potentially like play into a potential stereotype, I think the fact that it has the end result is like it's acceptance, and One Piece does that as well with the Okama, where it's about like the soul and freedom and that sort of thing. So there's not much for me to really get.
It fits with the core idea of the story. It's ultimately positive. Like with how One Piece does it is like on some level like transgender and non-conformity. That's like fundamentally anti-authority in a sense, and One Piece is fundamentally anti-authority. So it works with it, and it's Gintama too.
So like the fact that it's here at all, I kind of respect it more. Not to say that like stories that don't involve gender identity at all are like lesser for not doing it, because Naruto maybe had Haku, but it wasn't like a call attention to there wasn't like a message behind that. So like the fact that Gintama, even in just a one or two chapters, has like a character, like I said, I respect it, that it's more diversity to the story, different ways of presenting the themes.
Not that I mind, but this discussion is definitely going longer than I thought it would. Like, I'm surprised I have much, because I didn't have that much to say about the firefighter chapter, reading it, but then, discussing it, it's like, wow, yeah, that was better than I thought, so... And I expected this one to be a discussion, though, just because, it's a subject that mutually interests us. We have a history of talking about it a lot, so... Yeah.
I'm not surprised that we've gone on for this long, because, how things go. When I have something to say about the material, the discussions tend to be longer.
True. Where Kinnikuman, I'm just I won't shut up, and Mathwiz is just, lying there, dying slowly. Your soul drifted away in Kinnikuman, but Kinnikuman brought your silver soul back. I guess. But anyway, so there was a chapter with the ninja lady, the assassin lady. We already kind of talked about it.
I also like the running gag where she loses her glasses and she's like, I can't see, and comedy ensues.
Yep.
Oh, and then that comes back up later where the one person, the mob guy, or mob. What? It is a specific thing. Yakuza, the Yakuza guy. No, is that what they are? I don't know, but the guy gives her the gun, and she's like, "Oh, is this a Pez?" Well, it was translated as Pez dispenser in the Viz version.
I'd have to find it.
But I'd imagine there was a joke that it's something else. It's some sort of thing. And then when the bomb shows up, it's like, "Wow, look at this! This is," and it's like, "No, it's a bomb. Throw it away." But she's like, "I gotta find my glasses." It's priorities. And then of course when she goes to throw the bomb, Gintoki goes by on his motorcycle or on his scooter, and she's just like, I can't throw this, and then it just explodes. Also, the fact in that chapter when they run into some truck driver, and it turns out to be the guy with the glasses, and then they just blow up the truck, and then that turns into a whole new episode or chapter plot where they're at the hospital, and so Elizabeth is in the hospital from being run over. He's there because his truck blew up, and then they get a whole new chapter out of that. So I like the way that the jokes will connect and turn into whole new subplots for different chapters. It's cool.
No, yeah, that's there was one that I appreciated that I mean, it happened in this reading, but we'll see the follow-up probably in the next reading, assuming it's not anime original. But yeah, I do like how there's a logic to it. There it's not a Simpsons or a kind of episodic comedy that'll just maybe not super consequential, but I mean that's not maybe that, I haven't watched Simpsons, so maybe that was not the best example I could have used. But yeah, that is kind of fun how they'll just end the chapter one way and then build into that off the next chapter where it's just oh yeah, of course, they have to go to the hospital because of the fucking bullshit that happened over this chapter. Yeah.
Oh, you did also mention the sword guy, so of course I have to bring up the fucking Naruto reference where, Kagura throws the sword away and then appears behind him and does the hand sign, and then the technique that Kakashi does to Naruto in the like the early chapters where, you know, she just like sticks her fingers up his ass and he's like, ah, and it's like a big powerful attack, but it's also a joke and it's a reference.
Yeah, mostly because so apparently that's like a prank, like just a common prank in general
Oh,
with kids. Yeah. So,
I can't believe Naruto ripped off culture.
But maybe, see, I don't know if because if she's doing like a Naruto hand sign, like that would be a very Gintama thing to make a reference to another jump manga.
Well,
so I don't
it
think
might not be
base.
a hand sign because it's just like, you know, the
it might
fingers
just be the
crossed and the
pose to
pokey.
do that kind of
finger.
Yeah, because that's just apparently something like kids will do because it's to for fun because they think it's funny and you know whatever. But
oh man, me and my Western perspective only recognizing it from Naruto and being like, that's a Naruto reference.
When you sent it to me, I see. Well, you added like a bunch of question marks, so I thought you were like, I wasn't sure if you were genuine or not, because like that's also like if we ever get to JoJo, like there's a meme in the JoJo community because like it does get referenced a lot, but there's instances of people like pointing at something as like, is that a wheelchair? Is that a JoJo reference? Or is that a knife? Is that a JoJo? Like things that obviously aren't JoJo references.
I guess you could say I was making a reference within a reference because that's what I was referencing.
Yes, that's what you're doing. And I'll accept no other questions or comments at this time. That's what you're doing. You were making a JoJo reference by making a Naruto reference.
Even though I haven't read JoJo. Let's not talk about that.
Anyway, there's a chapter with like the mushroom monster beasts in the woods.
And I like the part where Kagura like makes the soup out of the one creature that had the mushroom, and so then they all get the mushrooms. They're like, what did you do? And then also they're like, so whatever you do, don't touch the mushroom. And she like rips it off her head, and 3 more sprout out, and they're like, why do you look so proud? You're not special.
You're not better than us because you have more. Yeah, Kagura's a good, dumb, idiot child, and she's the best. I feel like there's definitely something more going on here, but I like couldn't piece together anything, and I was also probably like getting, you know, done with my reading, and I just was like, yeah, I'm just gonna move on rather than like ruminate on this, because like there's a whole thing with the guy, and he didn't kill the animal, but because like he protected this thing, like it ended up becoming a monster because of the mushroom, so he had to put it down, like so just this kind of you know, like he had the courage to sort of like make this connection to like, because they even said like before the mushrooms happened it was like a guardian beast, and like he made this connection, but then like you know, it went sour for him, so I don't know if it's gonna like come back. Is his character gonna return and we're gonna see more of like that, because he's, you know, he accepted like the grief and loss, but I don't know. I definitely think there's something there, but I just feel like I haven't quite pieced it together yet. So
yeah, I didn't have much to say about that chapter either.
One we missed was the Otsu, the idol character, who she had the whole chapter with her dad, and I just realized, like, because she's kind of recurring, but I'm like, wait, we didn't even talk about her in the first place. I mean, it was good. Like, her dad, you know, had this promise, and he risked everything to fulfill it, and I just also like the trope where, like, the character is recognized when they don't think they should be, or wouldn't be. And so, yeah, it was fine. Did you have any further thoughts on it or nah?
No.
Sad.
That wasn't one of the ones that stood out to me. Not that it was bad, it's just like not much to talk about.
Okay, now I'm on the demon, the guy who like where you know he's in the fight ring like killing people for money to raise all the orphans.
Yeah.
The Shinsengumi want his help, or want Gintoki's help to sort of deal with it, and he kind of like, you know, he doesn't do it because they want him to. He does it because he gets involved on his own, and he's Gintoki. And yeah, the guy, he dies, but they still go and break up the you know, just, you know, Gintoki being like, you know, secretly heart of gold when the kids like try and like gather up everything they value to try and pay him to help, because, you know, he to help, and like he just takes like this little collectible sticker stamp card thing, I don't know what it is, and he's just like, oh, this is the latest one, I'll take it, this is my payment. And what Okita takes like the glasses, like they all just kind of take little toys as payment and accept it, and then they go fuck shit up, and it's good. And
I think there's also like, I think this was the same part where it's just more like, and again, this might have been translated differently in your version, but it's just like more things like weird things happening and characters just rolling with it. So it's just like taking a panel out of context. I thought it was really funny. Like Kagura shows up for their like stakeout thing outside of the guy's place. And she's just like, "Hi, Detective Pasta. I bought some donuts. They say no stakeout is complete without them." And it's just like, what? And so then she's just like referring to Shinpachi by this like weird name. And he's like, at first he's like, "Why are you calling me that?" But then he just like rolls with it because she's like, "Oh, and I'm this person." And he's just like, is that a reference? But then he just like, they roll with it for like the rest of the scene. And it's funny.
I'm trying to find out how it's translated in the fan translation, but I can't find it. So I'll just say what I want to say about the arc, because I guess it's like, because like as I understood it, the killer guy, he was like it's not, like they call, like my translation called him a serial killer, but it's not like he was like murdering random people. He's just like killing people in a fight club kind of thing. And like, so he's only a criminal because of this sort of like underground fight ring that's like allowed by people in power. Like Shinsengumi can't do anything about it. But
it's also like, because the samurai were, you know, kind of like put down or whatever, like, you know, they were ousted, or I forget what the word is I'm looking for. But so like on top of the thing existing because of the system, like the circumstances that pushed him to join the thing. So it's like the Shinsengumi kind of like created the circumstances for which this thing would need to...
Or maybe not the Shinsengumi, but the Amanto, right?
Well, yeah, but the Shinsengumi, aren't they, like, tied to the Amanto? Like...
They're like, I mean, they're ultimately protecting the systems that they put in place at the end of the day. Like, that's why they protect the one shitty guy who's involved in the drug trade. And then, like, yeah, in this case, like, Okita, he wants this place gone because it's wrong, but as a member of Shinsengumi, he can't do anything. So that's why he tries to get Gintoki to do it. So it's like, you know, they're you know, basically, like...
I'm thinking of, like, the Bafuku or whatever, which is, like, the upper echelon thingy, which is more connected to the Amanto. But basically, you know, they took down the samurai, and then they create this, like, fighting ring, which samurai who now have nowhere to go are kind of, like, pushed towards.
Stuck there. Basically, like, they're you know, fighting, cockfighting when they, you know, chickens or dogs, like, pitbull, like... They're basically, like, oh, you don't have any place in the world? So, like, fight and die for our amusement. And that's, like, the only way they can live in this world. So, like, at the end of the day, so now you have this serial killer who's just, like, just trying to find a way to survive in this world and falling in with these systems that, like, allow him to do that. But also, like, the systems are wrong. And also he's, like, demonized by the system because for falling in with this underground, like, it's basically just, like, more demons of the, Bakufu? I don't know how to pronounce it. But, what you said earlier. The Amanto, and like, so and then he ends up dead because of those systems, and so the Gintoki's like, well, fuck that, and all the Shinsengumi go in too in disguises, or not even disguises, they just go in to help, and they shut it all down, like they're able to you know, remove this shadow of under this system that it's good and cool, and they're cool guys.
I don't remember if this gag was from the same chapter, but I know that there's a part where, like, the three are, like... No, it is from this chapter, because they're trying to chase down... So this is earlier in the chapter, where they're, like, trying to chase down the guy who ends up getting killed. But basically, like, the three are, like, together in this very small, like, cart that they're, like, because they're trying to find the guy, and Gintama... Damn it. Gintoki is, like... you know, it's too crowded. Let me go alone. But then the other two characters are like, no, the three of us make one. And then Kagura, the way it's translated, she says, like, you know, Gin's the left arm, Shinpachi's the left leg, and I'm the white blood cells. And then Gintoki's like, just what we want to be, two bloody disembodied limbs. And I'm like, if that doesn't sum up this cast of characters, and like their appeal and like what they represent, I don't know what does.
Yeah, I don't know when that was from because I can't find it again, but no, that's pretty good, especially because I don't remember that translation, so maybe I just missed it. But that's pretty funny. Anyway, so I was wrong about the funny moment with Elizabeth having a taxi driver capture. It was actually the one with Kondo. He's like being summoned to the main offices regarding the whole fight thing incident, and there's the senior who's like, yeah, you're gonna fucking die, I'm gonna protect you. And he's like, so like they hit Elizabeth the car, and just something about that page is just funny, and it's like, that was an assassin. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah, and then that's when
Oh
the
yeah,
girl
and then
comes in.
Katsura shows up, and he's like, "How dare you hurt my pet?" And it's just like,
that's where the bomb comes in, and then yeah, like that's what you said earlier, where it's like she can't throw it because Gintoki's there, and
there's also another joke with her that I just really liked. I saw it, and I'm like, "Ooh, I need to save this in my repertoire of like personal jokes," because like her glasses break, and she's like, "I'm totally blind without them. I can't even see what I mean." And I'm like, that's funny. I'm going to remember that one.
That's right, we both wear glasses. Okay, see that? Maybe I should read the official translation. That sounds like, I don't remember these jokes. These are good.
See, yeah, that's why I switched over, because I didn't...
in the original, okay, the fan translation, it said, I can't see anything with my glasses, not even tomorrow. So, like, and there's something funny there, too, because it's but if it leaned into it, like, you know, she becomes just a nihilist, she doesn't care about anything, like, tomorrow doesn't matter, or, I don't know, like, but that, you know, it doesn't do anything, like, it's still kind of funny, but not as funny, like, that's funnier.
Yeah, like, I do also have another, like, I took a very specific, this was around the time that I had switched over, it was in that arson chapter, where, like, there's a part where Gintoki's talking about like taking out the trash, like, and having to burn the trash. And there's a part where in the fan translation I had read, it was like, you can only live by your own rules, and it's like, that's because after I read it, it might as well be burned. And I'm like, read what? Nothing's ever mentioned. But it's another Shonen Jump joke. And so, like, in the Viz translation, it's like, Shonen Jump should get put out on trash burning day. And it's tied, you know, because it's tied into the whole, like, you know, living by your own code. And so, like, that's a Shonen Jump, like, thing. And so he's like, you know, when I read Shonen Jump, I feel like burning something. And it's like, okay, that makes more sense. Like, the language, like, the structure of the sentences and the word choice makes sense. Like, I understand what the joke is, whereas in the fan translation, I don't know what the...
Maybe that's why I didn't find it that funny, because I wasn't reading the official translation. So I guess I'll go find access to that. Because I guess the whole thing with the translor kind of made me like, I maybe I should just avoid the official translation entirely. But it appears like I missed some things because of that. Like Japan or Jump is this hot-blooded manga, so of course it makes you want to burn something after you read it.
Although there probably is, like, I won't write off the fan translation entirely, because they do like some of the like translator's notes where like it provides maybe some like cultural context.
And Viz hates translator notes, so very sad.
Yeah, I mean, this version does have, like, a couple of translator's notes, but it's...
Bleach did too, but not a lot.
But yeah, like, it's not many. Viz seems to prefer to not do it, which, like, makes sense if, clutter the margins with text.
Again, they're aiming at the younger audiences who, you know, that kind of thing, so...
Younger audience reading. We don't like reading.
Why would you buy
please.
They bought manga. They're here for the pictures, not the words. But anyway, yeah, then it's the hospital chapter with the jokes.
And speaking of the hospital, again, looking at the translation for the Viz version, it's very specifically a 2020 thing, where this is like, this was a truly spectacular year. Nothing happened that wasn't awful. And I'm just like,
Mood.
Not a 2020 mood.
Anyway, there's the cockroach chapter, which was another comedy chapter, which we already mentioned.
I like the part where, he gets they're not watching it on TV, but the character, the Otose and Catherine downstairs are, like, watching it. So it's like, you have to find the one that has the name. And he finds it and, like, throws it away because he doesn't know. He's like, maybe this will get me some good karma. Because that's right, because the whole explanation of, like, what is happening while they are under this assumption that, like, these are just mutant cockroaches, that it's like, it's our fault. The fact that we left crumbs around, and so they just, like, grew into these mutant... So there's, like, a duality in, like, what's happening, because when Shinpachi comes like back, he's like, there's this rumor going around that they're, like, alien cockroaches and whatever, and they're like, so we're fine, nobody has to know that it's our fault, when it wasn't their fault at all, but they think...
Right, that, like, there's a dissonance between what's actually happening, what the characters assume is happening, and that makes it funnier, yeah.
So, like, when Gintoki finds the solution and then throws the cockroach away, thinking, like, bad karma, so good karma if I spare the cockroach, like, sorry for killing so many of your brethren, when that wasn't the solution at all.
Right, and then he finds out the truth, and he's just like, I just destroyed the earth, whoops, and then Sadaharu just, like, kills it, and that's the end of the chapter.
I wonder if there's maybe a connection in, like, the dirt of the past, and the fact that, he killed these cockroaches in the past, so he wanted to change by not killing anymore.
Watch just like come back in the final chapter, like Naruto doing the harem jutsu or something like that, and just like the cockroaches become like instrumental in defeating the main antagonist or something like that.
Like
I haven't read Gintama or watched it or haven't been spoiled the ending, I swear. On the off chance that I'm correct, I just want to be clear.
No, that also kind of is like reminds me of One Piece when like an animal will come across, will show up, and it's like, oh, they interact with the Straw Hats, and then they come back later, and it's like, oh, so maybe Gintama will do the same.
No, yeah, definitely. Like we've talked about it, but it's always cool when characters from a while ago return, because it's like, hey, yeah, we all remember the story.
Characters from a while ago, even
cool.
The cockroach.
Yes,
the army of cockroaches.
They're a character, damn it. No, I don't know. But anyway, next is the cult chapter with the mole. That was a little arc that happened. And then the last arc, we're almost done. We're free. Was the Amnesia arc, where Gintoki got amnesia, and well, so did Kondo. And what did you think about that one?
Wait, I'm sorry. Repeat that.
The one where the last part of the reading, where Gintoki got amnesia.
Oh, it was it was interesting. You know, you have like Gintoki, with the fact that he lost his memories. In a way, it's again like confronting his past from like a different perspective of like, wow, I really was this much of a failure, and he's like, you people should just leave me because like clearly I treated you badly and these sorts of things, and it's like, okay, this is kind of like a neat thing to look at.
Mm-hmm. Right, like, because that's what I like about characters with amnesia is like they become these blank slates that are then like kind of they view the world around them through a fundamentally different lens. And in the case of like Gintoki, like he sees his own, like they're trying to like look at your old life, and he's like, wow, this fucking sucks. Why do you like me? Like, and it's like, that damn man spitting, he's got a good point. Which obviously, like, we know Gintoki, and we know he has his heart of gold that's worth, or heart of silver that's worthwhile. But he got amnesia, and yeah, it is kind of interesting, like, because it's not even just played for gags is the thing. Like, it's actually like, oh no, he's leaving. He's just going to do his own thing. Like, that's kind of sad. And then
and you also get the moment with the characters where they show like their loyalty to Gintoki, where Kagura's just sitting there and just chewing on the seaweed and is like, yo, I'm gonna wait till he comes back. He might forget about us, but it's still like, and it shows like how far they've come over the last couple chapters and arcs. This
shitty family of assholes who are good.
They're the two cool bloodied limbs, but damn it, if they're gonna stick together.
Even if they're only held together by blood and spit, right? But and then of course, like he regains his memory, like going back to like protecting what other people want to protect is like Shinpachi and Kagura want to protect Gintoki, and so Gintoki kind of like remembers his desire to protect what other people want to protect when like he sees them protecting him. So it's like like that kind of like gets it. Like protecting, like that's what he cares about, like what he failed about in the past. So that's like just kind of like the most important thing to him, I suppose. Is and he gets back and he gets his memories back, and it's cool. And they beat up the terrorists, who are making bombs. By the way, so did the translation spelled the bombs just away, right? Or the dolls rather?
I don't. Oh, like just away, like with a U. Mine says. Mine says like Jastaway.
Jastaway,
but
okay,
it's like
gotcha.
Close enough.
Okay, gotcha. Because when I was watching anime, it was Jastaway, and also, so to be Craftsdwarf and make a weird Toku reference, in the series that I recommended in my Toku video, Resh Sentai Tokuger, there was one episode where there's like an antagonist. He has like a little horse, kind of like the toy horses that it's like a pole with a horse head on it, and you like ride around on it, except it's actually like makes him have super speed. He's voiced by Shinpachi's voice actor in the Gintama anime, and the horse is called Justaway. So it's like it's a little nod to Gintama basically, and it's not secretly a bomb or anything. And also, that's probably like my favorite joke in the entire series, because like the one of the basically someone grabs that horse from him and takes it, and he's like, okay, just wait, go on back to the ranch, and like throws him into space. And then in Shinpachi, the bad guy, he goes, just away is far away. and then there's like, it's just really goofy and funny, and it was the best laugh I had in Tokuger. And like so now like you have this joke, and it's also connected to Gintama. So with which and again like just because apparently Just Away becomes like a recurring gag in the series. So like like again, this series aired in like 2014, so Gintama would have been going for a few years by then. So I just wanted to like mention that, because like this is something I know that the series is gonna Just Away is gonna be a thing, apparently, a gag. And so I don't like I that's just just like justice I don't think it means that, but more just maybe it is, he's a terrorist, and if that's his idea of justice, I don't know, but yeah, I just wanted to like just say that, because like that's just one thing I know, just little thing, not important. And yeah, that's how I end off our first Gintama discussion. Like, hey, did you guys know about Tokuger? Yeah, so. That was a really good fucking discussion. I didn't think it like I came in like, yeah, Gintama's like a 5 out of 10 for me, and I come out of it like, wow, that was like I enjoyed the discussion better than the reading, and now
how I revisiting Gintama made me change my score from a 1 to a 9.
Yeah, and exactly, but I don't know. See, and now I'm definitely like feeling like. Maybe I'll really like Gintama. I don't know whether it like really like it's like an 8 or 9, but I don't know. I'm kind of now by the time I get to end, like right now it's maybe a 6, But I'm thinking like, because I think from what I hear, it gets really fucking good. Okay, and I'm really looking forward to it.
If Shabes is listening to this podcast, I can just hear him like groaning in the background, because I know he thinks Gintama's mid.
I think he's only finished like the first season, which would be like the 200 episodes. I don't know if he's finished the whole thing, like all 300.
I was under the impression he had seen the whole thing. Like he's very much someone who's like a don't drop things. Well, I think he went through the whole thing.
He said that, but he's also said that he'll drop things if it ends on a season. So like he'll watch MHA, maybe. But he'll just watch season 1. So he might have only watched the first 200 episodes, which again, like going back to like what I said earlier, is like he reached the point where it's like, if it's not for you, you would know by this point. Which is like episode 61 or something like that. So, that's sure.
Well, if he is listening, I'm sure he can confirm for us in the comments.
Yeah, but he's busy listening to the No Show, which go watch Doremi, you son of a bitch. You already read Gintama, go watch Doremi. You could fit another 200 episodes into your life. But anyway, yeah, that was a good discussion. I had fun discussing it, and hopefully I'll have more fun reading it than I did this time. And if I don't, then I can look for a discussion at least, because, yeah, Mathwiz has things to offer, and that's... I forget what it was like. It's been like 2 months since we had this. Alright, anyway, thank you for listening. Oh, next chapters. So next time we're reading a little bit less. It's chapter 53 to 98. Yeah, 90. I was like, did I say 78? I don't know. But yeah, so that's the second reading. I feel like it'll be shorter just because like a lot of this time was talk about like general things. So we'll see. And if it is shorter, I might confer with the people who made the original listing and just kind of like lengthen some of the readings and maybe shorten our podcast a little bit. Like, is it going to be 13 episodes? Is it going to be 15 episodes? I don't know. But we'll see. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.